Facebook, and YouTube. That's it for us. We'll see you in the tavern.
Hi, my name is Hyunjae Jang, and my Hearthstone nickname is Don. I'm streaming on Twitch. 처음 그랜드마스터가 되었을 때는 어느 정도 좀 하위 그룹은 면하고 싶다라는 생각도 하기는 했었는데 확실하게 제가 그 프로로서의 모습을 보여주고 싶기 때문에 저는 플레이오프까지는 좀 목표를 두고 있습니다. 이제 제가 하스스톤을 하고 나서 가장 많이 바뀐 점 중에 하나가 부모님이 이 게임에 관심을 가지게 되고 관심을 가지게 되시고 또 아버지 같은 경우에는 방송에 관심을 가지게 되셨고 어머니 같은 경우에는 실제로 이 하스스톤을 직접 플레이하고 계신다는 점이 좀 하스스톤 하고 나서 많이 바뀐 점인 것 같습니다. 제가 방송을 하는 걸 이제 보는 걸 굉장히 관심을 가지고 계시고 아침에 이제 방송을 안 켰을 때 가끔 연락을 하시기도 합니다. 이제 2015년에 제가 처음으로 이제 우승을 하게 됐을 때 그때 한국에서 처음으로 1억이라는 상금을 획득하게 됐고 이제 그걸 기념하듯이 팬분들이 그 100K 원에 대해서 좀 그런 식으로 애칭으로 1던이라고 좀 불러줬던 그게 유래가 됐습니다.
Hi, I'm Minil Javinas, aka Staz. I'm playing for Brand Esports. I still don't have a Twitter account yet, so just follow our Facebook page for updates. I'll be creating one when I get back. So I think the deck that made the huge impact in my career is the Miracle Rogue. It's one of the decks that I used when I started playing Hearthstone. And for the first year I played Hearthstone competitively, it was one of the decks that I used for like that full year that gave me the most wins during my early days in Hearthstone, yung mga early tournaments ng Hearthstone. For the Grandmasters, I think what I'm most looking forward to is to be recognized more by people as a professional Hearthstone player. I mean, I think compared to the other players, I'm the most underrated player in the scene. So it's my opportunity to prove myself worthy for this title, which is the Grandmaster.
本名叫刘伟杰，游戏 ID 叫学习，然后我有 Twitch、Facebook。白头奶的 ID 其实是好像是朋友帮我取的，因为那时候就是想要一个酷炫的英文名字，然后他也是帮我取之外，我才知道原来这叫念学习。俄罗斯最经典的回忆应该是那个世界赛奥斯卡跟泰斯打的那一场，就是兵法打兵法内战这样。就是两边打的几乎也是水深火热，很感动。我最喜欢的大师职业选手就是 RDU， 因为我是看他比赛才看到有点感动，我才喜欢上这款游戏。对我而言，成为大师的话，就是代表说我在这款游戏中我被认可了，我会继续努力。
My name is Jungsu Kim. I am Surrender. You can find me at Twitter with SurrenderHS. If there is a rival in my group, then it should be Tom, I think, since we played each other so many times and I always lost to him. Yeah, it should be Tom. I really want to beat him. Ferrari. He's one of my favorite Korean player. He's like 6 years older than me, so he treats me like his little brother. But if we have to face each other, then I'm gonna beat him, of course. I think every single Hearthstone player can agree with that EU is the best, since they always have the highest cut for playoffs, and World had top 3 European players for top 4, right? So EU is the best, and I think Asia is the second one. Yeah, we had higher cut for playoffs than America, so I think America is the worst. Then my favorite memory is, I think it's the Worlds in 2015. I was staying in Sixth place at the time and helping Osaka for his preparation, and I was cheering with Sixth for him. And when he was winning the Worlds, we kept drinking. We were super happy for him. Yeah, that's the most memorable memory.
I think I've been pretty predictable.
To another day at Grandmasters here. It is day number 2 of the playoffs this weekend, and we had a pretty weird and wild day yesterday, didn't we, Derek?
We did indeed. It was Staz going on a bit of a tear, to be perfectly honest, with his Hunter. 4-0 in games, 2-0 in series, qualifying very, very cleanly through to the semi-finals. And then a Mage Mirror as well, which kind of reason just went out the window. Yeah, that was just ridiculous at that point.
If you want to watch a very strange mirror, watch the last match from yesterday. It was very, very weird between Alutimu and Dawn. And a very brief update. Dawn did get knocked out. It's going to be Alutimu and Staz moving on to tomorrow, which is the final day of playoffs from Group A. But today we're going with Group B. But before we get into that, we can just talk about Grandmasters and what we are doing here. We've had many, many weeks of Grandmasters now, so it's been 3 regions across the board, and Darren and myself and a few other people, actually, casters-wise, have been covering this region over the course of many weeks, but we are at the playoffs stage now, so it's basically going to be 1 spot from each region. It's going to book their place in the global finals there in November, and then we do it all again for season 2 to equal 2 players from each region. 2 players, including China, of course, are going to put forward 2 players, and that is going to be your top 8 for the global finals, which is going to be pretty high. But we have like the rest of playoffs and a whole season to get through before that, Darren.
That is exactly right, and I don't know, it feels weird for me to be saying that playoffs is what it all led up to, because Grandmasters in itself has kind of felt like, you know, this is it. But then you remember they're qualifying for something even bigger. Exactly, the whole of Grandmasters is just to get to the global finals. But the format that these players will be using in Grandmasters and in the Masters Tournament, the qualifiers this year, is a Specialist, our new format for this year. A single class format, you bring 1 class, 3 decks of that. 5 cards can be different between those 3 decks, and then you can switch them up in the best of 3.
Yeah, on week 100 of Grandmasters, we are not going to go too deep into the Specialist format, which I'm sure you guys are fully aware of. But let's go deep into the Group B here. We have Shaxi, who finished Division B at number 1, which means he got number 1 seed, which means he effectively starts this group stage at a 1-0 win. So where it says bye, just imagine he had some kind of opponent, but that's his benefit to finishing top of the group. He just gets a win, he moves on, so he's in winner's match. But then we have Surrender, who's actually traveling across from from Division A,
That's
as
correct.
the 2 second places swapped places through the group. So we have Surrender versus Tyler in a match number 2, which is going to be the first match of the day, and then it will continue on through that bracket until we have 2 players left, and 1 player will go home. And that is our schedule for the day, Darren.
It is Surrender and Tyler. As you said, with Surrender traveling over from Division A, this is the first time these players will be matching up against each other. 2 absolute powerhouses of the Asia-Pacific region. However, despite Tyler only relatively recently transitioning over to the Asia-Pacific region, moving to Vietnam, he was the #1 point earner for last year, which I'm sure some players like Rivius in particular will feel a little bit salty about, given that they were so close to getting that spot. But still, with Surrender having a very strong HCT performance a couple of years ago as well. This is, I mean, this is in my opinion as good as it gets in Asia Pacific.
You know, same as yesterday, this is going to be the feature match. It's the only one we know for sure. But it's going to be Rogue Mirror. But speaking about the players, I think these are potentially 2 of the biggest crowd favorites as well. Surrender, a very long and storied history in Hearthstone, not only for himself, but being teammates with, you know, very popular players like, you know, Sixo. You can look at Hoy back in the day as well. Like, you know, Surrender's just almost been here from the start. Probably the outside of Kranich, one of the first Korean players to really blow up in Hearthstone in terms of just how popularity is gained across the world, not only in Korea itself. And Tyler, just a lovable Hearthstone player. I think everyone across the world loves, you know, from the Americas region all the way to Asia Pacific, even though he, you know, jumped away from Europe to, you know, maybe make a bit of an easier run of it in the Asia Pacific region previous year. I think he's gained a lot of respect from all regions in Hearthstone now.
Yeah, one of my personal all-time favorites in terms of players. I have watched a truly unconscionable amount of hours of him streaming Hearthstone over the years, which I hope to see him do very well and qualify through to that semi-finals. As we can see here, his opponent will either be Staz or Alutem, depending on where he finishes in the first seed or second seed.
Yeah, so what's going to happen is yesterday, Staz and Alutimu got through the group and Dawn got knocked out, which means today the same is going to happen, but for Group B, which means either Shaxi, Tyler, or Surrender will get knocked out today. The other 2 fill these 2 spots, but it means that they face opposite players again.
Yes.
So, as you said, 1 player, the seed 1, will face Alutimu on the right, and seed 2 will face Staz. And as the players getting ready to go right into it, I think, pretty quickly with Surrender versus Tyler. The winner will go on to play Shaxi. The loser will wait to play the loser of the winner going on to play Shaxi. Very simple.
That's right. Basically, for any of these players, Shaxi included, despite having got that win in the first round, lose 2 matches and they are out.
Yes.
It's pretty simple. As you can see there by Surrender's jersey though as well, you talk about teammates that he's had along the years. I mean, now with him being on T1, he's now teammates with Orange, Fino and Ball Control, with Fino already qualifying through to the semi-finals of Grandmasters, and Orange in with potential of doing so today as well.
Probably the #1 powerhouse team overall, I would say. Outside in terms of just number of players plus quality of players. When you combine those 2 things, I think it's pretty impressive.
I think in Grandmasters, Team Liquid probably takes the #1 spot at the moment, just because both of their competitors in Frozen and Dog have done so well, with Frozen already getting through to the semi-finals. But that is for the Americas to be worrying about later on in the day. Here in Asia Pacific, we are ready to jump into our first match, the Rogue Mirror, which we were missing yesterday. No Rogues yesterday, just 2 Mages and a Lone Hunter. So I'm glad we're going to see a little bit of the Rogue gameplay, because it's a real cornerstone of the current meta, and I think Surrender is at the top of the Rogue game.
Yeah, and these Rogue lists, I think, almost identical. There's like
super similar.
There's 1 Novice Engineer versus, what is the cut for that Novice?
Snip Snap?
Oh, Snip Snap, yeah. 1 Novice Engineer for a Snip Snap. So Surrender playing the Snip Snap, and then if we move over to Tyler's list, which is extremely similar, as I said, then he is playing the 2 Novice Engineers instead. So it's going to be very similar to the Mage matchup we had yesterday, in that it's an almost identical mirror match.
Yes.
So there is not a lot to go by. So Tyler and Surrender rocking pretty much the same lists.
Yeah, the only real difference in their lineups outside of the Snip Snap versus the Novice Engineer is in their anti-warrior sideboard, going in pretty different directions, which is quite cool to see. Surrender going with the Coppertail Imposter, double War Gear, and Cairn Bloodtooth. I was talking to Orange on Twitter about exactly 1 or 2 War Gears. He was a fan of 1 War Gear, 1 Mojo Master Zihi, but I was still puzzled after his answer. I understood his reasoning of, you don't always want to go War Gear on the Coppertail.
Right.
Sometimes Mojo Master Zihi can be even better against the Warrior, just to deny their Omega Assemblies and Omega Devastators for a few more turns. But I still think it's a reasonable card to go for. And then Tyler on the other side, going with Togwaggle's Scheme, 2 copies of it to counteract the Warriors. Won't matter in this particular tournament because in playoffs onwards there are no Warriors in Asia Pacific at all.
We did you a favor.
You're welcome.
But funnily enough though, although it might sound weird that you're talking about a side deck that just isn't going to be used, but with opponents of Tyler and Surrender, these 2 players specifically, and to be fair, even Shaxi, all 3 of these players have played a very significant amount of Warrior throughout Grandmasters. So it wouldn't have been a surprise to see any or even all of them potentially bring Warrior, but it hasn't ended up like that. So now we're going to go into game number 1 between Surrender and Tyler. It's going to be an almost exact mirror match going on.
It is indeed. However, the tiebreaker, I suppose, or I think it shifts the weights in one player's favor, is often the coin in these matchups. It's far from, I would say it's not quite as crucial in the Mage Mirror in terms of how important it is to have the coin. But I think Surrender is definitely a slight advantage at the start, at least.
Yeah, I think it's more of a you play differently as opposed to you're going to lose. You know what I mean? You just have to alter play a lot of the time when you're not on the coin in the mirror in this mirror, but in the Mage you were significantly disadvantaged, I would say. So let's just get right into it. Surrender. There we go. So get the right music. Whew. That was too hype for too long.
Too intense.
That was too hype for way too. Imagine the whole series. I need a break.
I didn't even realize that was so tense until it stopped.
Honestly, so we'll get into the game 100%, but a large amount of appreciation has to be said for this Hearthstone theme because it is very easygoing and relaxing as opposed to imagine if that was playing every game, all game.
Yeah, I'd be a wreck.
Yeah. Well, more so.
Yes, more of a wreck than I currently am with my broken arm.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Just a cable rat pretty early on for Tyler, just getting that lackey on the way. And as we said, Tyler not having coin does not have the option to go for that almost iconic rogue turn of late of coin miscreant and then having all the options in the world for the follow-up.
Yeah. Surrender, however, does, but it's far from guaranteed as the best play. Surrender has so many options here. We could see coin miscreant, perfectly valid, curve into SI7 agent, into the Spirit of the Shark. I agree this is probably the way to go, but we could have just seen Dagger, take it slow, maybe set up for coin Spirit of the Shark into try and get a bunch of lackeys off the Cable Rat. We could have just seen Coin Edwin was also something to consider there as well. A whole bunch of options, but I think because of the double benefit of how well this lines up against the just the rat on board as it currently stands, and also saving the Edwin to go super massive later on is very reasonable.
Yeah, now this is the spot you find yourself quite a lot in this mirror if you're not on the coin and your opponent does the miscreant turn, is the whole game just changes almost instantly into, oh, how do I defend? Just straight away, it's very much like, what do I do now? Because it's not often, if you're in Tyler's position right now, that you can make a play that gets you ahead right now.
Yes.
It's very much about, what do I do now? What do my next few turns look like? And how do I do that snap turn where you flip the board and kind of come back into the game?
The good thing for Tyler, though, is that in his defensive game plan, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Because very often when you have these kind of hands with all the damage cards, like Leroy and Life Drinker, it just gets worse and worse because you never get close to actually delivering lethal, but you also have no defensive options. That Heist Baron Togwaggle, though, is Tyler's game plan, a one-card game plan as it currently stands. I suppose, Goblin Lackey into Evil Miscreant probably coming down next turn is a nice middle ground just to bridge him over there. But if he can get that to go off, that is definitely Tyler's best chance of coming back.
both these players as well throughout their Grandmaster Season 1 journey have said on different occasions that they felt they just haven't, they've gone through stints of just not playing too well. Tyler said he thinks if he'd actually, not, I think in his words, misplayed and thrown a couple of games, he would actually have been a much more comfortable position to qualify in his group. And Surrender, I want to say it was week 3 or 4, maybe even before, maybe week 2, where he said like, "Oh, it's not been good enough already." So I'm going to just woof all in, just as much practice as possible, and then he did and turned it round. So pretty impressive from both players, just to at least note that they're I've not been doing my best, I need to step it up, and they have done. So
I agree, and I think we've seen that across all regions of Grandmasters, is a lot of players who I respect a lot not playing up to their usual standard. We saw yesterday a pretty prime example from Frozen, who I believe to be one of the best players in the world. It's perfectly evinced in his record so far in Grandmasters, playing pretty horribly, missing lethal, missing points of damage, just overthinking everything. And it wasn't even that bad what he was doing. He's just so good that it's not good enough from him, and he knows it. He was pretty distraught.
Frozen's one of the players I both love and hate. Because I know, I'll tell you why I hate him.
My
I
name's
love him
Raven, and I hate Frozen.
Yes.
2019.
He's a great player, which is why I think he's fantastic.
Yes.
But it annoys me because I know for a fact I could give him a deck that is very good, but maybe complicated, that he has never seen before, never played before, doesn't even know the cards. I could give it him 5 minutes later. Oh yeah, rank 1 legend. You would just unlock the deck in his mind.
Here's a list of improvements for you.
Yeah, and you can improve this. I'm like, what? Because I feel like Frozen's just one of those players that gets it.
Yes,
I know Orange a lot of the time has said that he has to work very, very hard to learn and understand decks and the game.
Yeah,
whereas I feel like Frozen just unlocks the whole deck in his mind on first glance. It's crazy.
Even then, he's shown that he is still fallible. Everyone can.
Not perfect. Yeah.
Yes. But Surrender, his game plan, to be perfectly honest, I think as soon as we saw the coin miscreant was pretty clearly set out. If he didn't top deck the Snip Snap, it was SI7 on turn 3, and then he was going to go Shark, he was going to go Double Lackey, and then he was going to go Edwin in the most likely scenario. And I think this was a very, very valid way of going about it. He gets a lot of value off the miscreant, holds early board control, sets up for a game-winning Edwin later on. This just seems like standard rogue theory.
Just look at this Edwin on 5. Just 2 lackeys and an Edwin is fantastic because the Shark is down.
Has the ability to clear off all the lackeys on this turn as well to deny a turn 6 High Sparrow Togwaggle, which I would value pretty highly. It's not always something that you have to play around massively, but given that Surrender is, I would say, pretty clearly in the lead as it currently stands, he can afford to play around the potential ways that he falls behind.
Wait, can he play all 3? Oh, the lackeys, he just leaves a 2 on him.
Yes.
For some reason, I had it in my mind that you meant you could clear the board. I was like,
no,
I don't
sorry.
think you can. But no, I'm sorry. You were right, and I was just missing information for some reason.
I think this is a mistake from Surrender. I think the benefit that he gets by clearing off the 2-1 instead of the 2-1 squashling, instead of one of the lackeys, is that a dagger hit has to go into the Spirit of the Shark to clear it off. I don't think that is worth it to not play around High Sparrow and Togwaggle.
I'm going to ask a weird question. Is Surrender ever bothered about the echo from Squashling?
Huh?
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because it's a weird card. It heals a lot. It echoes and it puts more stuff on the board. I don't know if that's good enough. I'm not saying that's why he did it and that's why he's right. I'm just, it wasn't just a 2-1 is my point.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, I think actually the bigger thing here for Surrender, which, I don't know, I kind of didn't really factor in, is just how big this Edwin is. And if Tyler does want to go for High Sparrow and Togwaggle, it's just too much damage.
He just gets hit for 10.
Which we can see here. Tyler had the High Sparrow and Togwaggle. He had the Lackey on board, and he still was cornered into going for the sap instead. So you know what, from Surrender, I take it back. Well played.
Funnily enough though, Tyler has gained the board with this turn, and the one-off sap that both players are running in their primary deck was just, when it's there, it shows up, doesn't it? I feel like it's one of the most singular impactful cards just in the game.
Yeah.
It's just 2 mana, your thing doesn't really exist anymore. is like in Rogue specifically, because it's such a tempo-based class. I feel like it's so powerful, and when it works, it really, really works.
I was weaned on the days of cube lock and even lock, where getting rid of those void lords, there is nothing better. Or a cube full of void lords, sapping that was just.
It just wins games, though, doesn't it? That's how crazy it is. It just wins games. Look right now, Surrender, I would argue, is now just behind, and it was just because of that one sap. If Tyler couldn't sap, his turn's terrible. Or not terrible, but significantly worse. Whereas now just one sap, the Edwin, the shark got cleaned up easily. The rest of the minions just didn't matter, even if they were left up. And Tyler's ahead. Now he can go Lackey into Togwaggle. Then he can one to more cards at a 0 mana. Like
Tyler's
it's all on Surrender right now.
A really good spot.
Yeah.
I mean, that sap was absolutely crucial. And, you know, good play from Tyler as well, because bouncing back this Edwin, I think it was unlikely to go disastrously wrong. Like, there's pretty much no combination of cards where on 6 mana, Edwin comes back with a 10.
Yeah, the refill, yeah.
And now the relatively slow play, at least in the immediate, of Heist Baron Togwaggle. Tyler finds the time for it. He's going to have to tank 6 damage in order to get it off, but I think with a Ziliax and a Life Drinker in hand, he's more than happy to do so.
I wonder if there's ever a sap from Surrender.
Interesting.
And go aggro. He has Leroy, he has Eviscerate.
Maybe.
Because that Togwaggle is not really getting played for a while.
Cable Rat Sap Edwin. Because, I mean, if Tyler goes Edwin, if Tyler goes Togwaggle again next turn, that's a horrendous play.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So Sap, Togwaggle's done something.
Yeah.
It's too late. It's happened. If you Sap, is Tyler really going to spend 6 mana after using 3 mana for a wand? He won't have 6 this turn. And then, is he really going to play it the turn after when, you know, you'd imagine he's probably got better things to do? Whereas if Surrender plays more aggressive, uses his Sap to try and gain the board back, Leroy, Eviscerate, has a follow-up plus whatever he draws soon. I think it's solid.
Surrender agrees.
I really, really like this play from Surrender.
Yes.
Both players now using Sap to just gain control of the game.
Right, and I think
or at least help gain control.
This is good recognition from Surrender, right? Because Tyler, both Saps came down for very different reasons. For Tyler, it was to just buy him that little bit of time to go for the value route because he stops taking so much damage. For Surrender, it was just to say, okay, I'm losing the value game so hard right now, I have to just push for tempo, push for damage. Ooh. Oh, that is a reasonable wand.
It's why wand is so good, right? Because you can effectively just draw a card and not reduce its cost sometimes, which is Backstab in this instance.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. You've drawn 3 cards for 3 mana, which is already better than Arcane Intellect, and they cost 0. It's like,
this is from Tyler. There was kind of a tough choice. I think you picked Defense Matrix literally just because it's the cheapest one. Like Hex was not necessary because he's already found the Execute to take out the Edwin.
can backstab and use a 1/1 on clearing another 3/3.
Yeah.
Can also Eviscerate, clean all this up, and play the auto defense matrix.
And that is, as was somewhat expected, a board clear.
It's a pretty good turn. Gets my stamp of approval.
And Tyler now going for the value route. His hand pretty perfectly complements that as well. I mean, it's not the dream hand because the Leroy is a little bit more aggression, but literally just Ziliax Life Drinker is absurd. No damage plan gets there from Surrender anymore. Absolutely.
And if he ever needs to gain some value even later on, he does just have Tog plus a Lackey whenever he gets one. He still has a Miscreant in the deck. I think he still has a Cable Rat.
Yeah.
He's running 2, right? Yeah.
I think he's played 2.
Did he play 2 Cable Rats?
So. He's played a lot of Lackeys.
I think he's got a Miscreant. I'm fairly sure he's got that.
Yeah, I think you're right. That auto defense matrix as well is actually just low-key kind of insane here, because if we were to see Ziliax coming down and trading in, that's just such a great defense on the Burglar. That's pretty good though. That helps Surrender for sure.
I do like it from Surrender though, because you can't just play around any Paladin secret, right, and just hope nothing bad happens. It just doesn't work like that.
Man, that's just the ultimate Ziliax counter, right? Like, it doesn't even get the heal because it didn't deal any damage.
I guess though, like, outside of a bit of health, the outcome for most of the Paladin secrets is the same, right? If it's get down,
That's the
it's
same.
the same. If it's
Redemption,
redemption, it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Except
I mean,
you
this
could,
was
except you
definitely
could
the best.
dagger.
This was the best one because it denies healing, right?
Yes.
I mean, the best one that involves resurrection. Like there was
Yeah.
some argument for whatever the plus health one is called. No, I forget with the new cards.
I'm
If
not
they
gonna
play,
answer
if they
'cause I
play a
also
spell,
forgot.
get plus health. Yeah.
Oh.
Whoa! That's insane. That's like, what combination of cards is better than that? Like Edwin, exactly? Maybe.
No,
Not even
no,
that. Like
yeah,
that's absolutely insane.
I don't even think it is. I look at Surrender. Surrender's like, what just happened? Look at his face. Oh. Surrender's like, I don't understand.
Excuse me.
Stop taking my good cards. And now uphill climb. Uphill climb doesn't do it justice, does it?
Yeah, this is an overhang at this point. This is like climbing upside down. Okay, well, what does Surrender have? It's a full board for Tyler. So, is there any chance of seeing attack face, self backstab? Does that set up for anything at all? If you attack face, dagger face, no. Like, there's just no outs that way. I don't think. Because he could look at locking out the board so Ziliax can't be played. And
there's
then
enough damage spells though, right?
Yeah.
From Tyler,
Yes,
I mean, he can self-kill his own stuff.
You're right. I'm just trying to think of any way that Surrender can come back in this one. Because as it currently stands, I think he will be on a similar wavelength to me, given that he has less information about the cards. It kind of puts us on an even playing field where I know all the cards and he knows half. He just needs to go for damage, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's not winning on board. He's not winning on value. He needs to get Shadow Step and
Blade
kill.
into SI, I mean, it could be worse. It
demanding.
really could be worse. That's
Yep.
what, 4 damage from hand with a 3/3 and a 2/2 weapon.
That's 6 damage, right? On swing as well.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I don't.
Smorgastic.
Yeah, he just has to, right?
Yep. This sets up for no heal into top deck Shadow Step Reaper. That will not come to fruition, we can quite clearly see.
I definitely like the kill on the shark, though.
Sure.
Unity, precision, perfection.
Cameras right back up again.
Nope. Can Myra possibly do something?
What can he get? I
What
mean,
death
there are
rattles exist
death rattles.
nowadays?
It just says discover a death rattle minion, right? So it can get Deranged Doctor.
Yes. Yep. It just can't get.
Rotten Apple
It can't
Bound.
get death rattle from other classes. That's all.
Right, yeah. So Rotten Applebound, Deranged Doctor.
Safeguard.
Abomination to clear the board, yeah, Safeguard, stuff like that, but it all involves it dying, which it wouldn't do on that turn, is the problem. Wait, if it discovers Rotten Applebound, you get the card right away, so you could then play
Yeah.
Rotten Applebound as well.
It's gonna go for him. Let's see. Okay, Curse Castaway has Rush.
You can't
You can't play
though.
it, but
Yeah.
but still.
He's still dead, but
Is there any
great job.
Is there any combo cards you can get?
I don't think so. Especially when there's a Ziliax on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, Surrender's dead.
Maybe Poetic discovered a death rattle and now he needs to do his own. Or a rattlesnake for some reason.
Well, that's the death rattle.
It's weird that they actually do make that noise. I've had rattlesnakes before.
I don't think I've ever seen a rattlesnake.
Oh really?
No.
I've had some before.
You've had some. It sounds like you've eaten one.
Not for tea. Oh, the Ziliax trade really
That one
going nuts
stings.
there.
I think that's just game. Yup.
Oh,
That's
you know
just
what?
game.
I half forgot about Waggle Pick. I was like, wow, if Surrender had a Waggle Pick this game, it might look a little bit different.
Yeah.
All the extra damage that could have been pushed.
I guess. I think there was just too much Tyler to shut it down. Like after that tempo swing where the that Edwin was dealt with, it was just too much. And this really does come back to Surrender's early game plan, because I think the later turns for Surrender, it was excellent recognition. There was one avenue to victory, which was to push everything face, and Tyler has no heal. Clearly it did not work, because Tyler didn't have the heal available, but I think it was good recognition.
Yeah.
The early turns, however, where it was, I think, a lot more difficult to figure out what was the correct line of play, I said at the time I agreed with him, and I still think it was the correct way to go. It was a very, very clear game plan. I mean, I think right from turn 2, he had turns 2 through 5 set up, which was like Coin, Miscreant, SI, Shark, Edwin, and he did that with only the substitute of Snip Snap off the top, which was even better. The problem with that is that it was, even from turn 2, I think he could have seen this is kind of weak to Sap, exactly to deal with the Edwin, and which is why I think there was some consideration of holding on to it to go for an earlier Shark. I still think it was correct, though.
Yeah, I think it was too good because Sap's a one-off, and if it doesn't come down,
you win on the spot.
I don't know what's in the deck that beats a 10-10 Van Cleef that early on. I think the biggest problem for Surrender was after the Sap, but after the Sap, the hand was not good enough to even make an okay Van Cleef, right? If there was like a couple more cheap cards, like a couple of lackeys, and he could have gone Lucky Van Cleef after, and it's big enough to make an impact even post-Sap, it would have looked a little bit better. Excuse me. But yeah, I think the Sap combined with what was Surrender's hand at that point was a little bit backbreaking, and although he fought back, it was never enough. And then just the Blink Fox with the Shark from Tyler getting like,
that was pretty fun.
The best cards that you could possibly have wanted was pretty insane. So while the players just decide on what they're going to do, is there any way they're going to be picking a secondary or tertiary?
I find it highly unlikely. Both players have a very clear anti-mage and anti-warrior sideboard, gone in slightly different directions on both sides. I can see their reason for either one, but I think overall it's very clear their primary deck is just there. It's just rogue. It's just rogue as it currently stands. This is kind of the build that you would play on ladder. I think for a lot of players, you know, you can substitute in maybe a walk the plank if you're facing a lot of mages on ladder.
Like an ooze sometimes.
Exactly, a Ken for the warriors or something like that. But this is the most standard version, and I think it gives them the best shot against the rogue mirror. Because I would argue, like, you know, a lot of the time, back in the raiding party days, the versions that had ooze weren't even that favored in the mirror. Or I think it was keeping ooze on the mulligan didn't even raise your win rate that much against the rogues, because, you know, oozing their waggle pick was decent. It was a powerful thing to do, but hitting Miscreant was way more powerful, and hitting raiding party was way more powerful. Obviously the party's gone now, but just hitting your powerhouse cards of Edwin and Miscreant are way more important.
Yeah, there's ways you can make plays that aren't about reacting to your opponent.
Exactly.
Right? Normally when you're reacting, it's bad in most decks.
Yes,
unless
you're specifically tailored.
Yeah. Unless you know, Control Warrior versus another deck. Well, yes, the deck is about reaction. But in general, you want to force your opponent to react to you and not the other way around. We did have confirmation that both players are sticking on their primary deck, so not too much of a surprise, but always good to check. Because we've seen, I think, once in Grandmasters, in Asia Pacific at least, where there was like a weird switcheroo that went on with the deck picks that threw us off a little bit. You know, when who was it? Who changed? Someone changed deck to like a tertiary deck, very randomly. I can't remember who it was, but someone did. I don't know if you were here, to be honest, Derek. It could have been anyone. Oh, God, no.
We're all the same to you, aren't we?
Just a co-caster to me. Okay, well, let's go to game number 2. You know I'm joking. Surrender versus Tyler. Tell me you donkey in this.
Yes.
Okay, seems about right to me.
Oh, I like that Edwin. That is a nice Edwin.
That's a nice Edwin. Oh, what a film. And now it's just going to be how many Shrek quotes are going to come up.
Donkey!
Okay, that's a little bit much.
Bit on the nose.
Yeah, I was expecting a little bit more subtlety from you there, Derek, but okay.
You should know that by now.
Yep. Okay, well, Van Cleef for Tyler, along with the coin. A combo as old as time.
Yeah, the rat keep is kind of interesting. I mean, I think the play he's clearly setting up is rat on 2. Ratatouille, by the way, my favorite Pixar movie.
I was waiting.
Ratatouille into Lackey Coin Edwin on 3, I think is the current game plan.
Is it actually your favorite?
It's not my favorite, but it's, I think, criminally underrated. I think it's definitely one of the best.
Like Tangled.
I actually don't like Tangled that much. You made me sick. I'm sorry.
Okay, you remind me of the main character in Ratatouille, actually. Not the rat. the human.
Oh.
That was be a little bit weird, wouldn't it?
So the useless dweeb who gets his hair pulled around by a rodent.
Yes. Yeah, you know what? Fairly accurate.
Well, joke's on you, because that makes you the rat.
I mean,
Please let go of my hair.
glad the camera's not on us right now. Imagine
Sitting on my
There's a
head.
caster who's just sat on the desk, and then when the camera's off, someone comes, pulls their hair, and that's how they cast.
Imagine.
Very
Raven,
original
just imagine.
film idea
Work.
coming from me there.
Tyler,
Tyler didn't rat on 2.
He did not. You know, it was far from mandated as a playwright. He has other ways he could play it, but I mean, I have to be honest. When I saw him keep the cable rat, which is not an often keep, I was trying to justify an often kept card. Sorry, I was trying to justify it, and that's the reasoning I came to.
This guy's toast.
Maybe he thinks it's just a good card. You know, I don't necessarily agree, but I mean, it deserves in the deck, not a strong card in the mulligan. That's the argument I would make. Because look what he could do this turn. Like, if he'd gone for the rat last turn, we could see an incredibly large Edwin being thrown down on this turn, to which Surrender would kind of be forced to either go double Vendetta with a Henchclan Burglar exactly, or Sap.
Yeah, the weird thing would be, though, is that the dagger wouldn't be up, which means there wouldn't be a guaranteed kill on the SI.
Sorry, yeah, you're right. You are correct.
Which makes it just... Obviously, if you've got certain lackeys, if you've got the deal 2 lackey, then fantastic. It's a fantastic turn. But yeah, there was just that, because the backstab does make it look very appetizing, doesn't it?
Fair point.
But Tyler now just going for a 4/4 Van Cleave. This, although looks pretty meager, it's relatively hard to deal with for Surrender outside of, say, Blink Fox into Vendetta.
Exactly Burglar into Vendetta, because there's a rogue mirror. So
oh, sorry, yeah.
And
also,
just Vendetta.
Yeah, and also like there's the one of Eviscerates, right?
Yes.
There's like a couple of cards that deal with it, but it's kind of awkward. And if it's dealt with, it's often outside of the Burglar into Vendetta, makes Surrender's turn bad, right?
Yes, exactly. And I think for Tyler is, you know, even if Henchclan Burglar plus Vendetta comes down, he has his own one in response. And I think what is more likely is just some kind of generic development from Surrender, be it Blink Fox, Henchclan Burglar, SI7, whatever. To which Tyler has the perfect response, again, of Burglar Vendetta to keep the board in his favor.
Yeah, and then you start to see the hand will kind of snowball after that, right?
Recently buffed cloning device, now 1 mana. Still probably not worth it over improved morale. Or Hand of Protection, actually.
I think.
Wow. Surrender wants some value, man. I guess, wait, it's discover a minion in your opponent's deck, right? So you could get with some reliability a Lackey Generator to go with Spirit of the Shark. Or even Edwin. Oh, no, wait, Edwin's already been played.
But he had a Lackey Generator as an option for 1 mana and didn't take it.
That's true. Well, the thing is, though, that he wants a minion Lackey Generator, right, rather than a spell, because Spirit of the Shark really wants to go with
double procs.
A minion, yeah, exactly, to get the double battle. Right.
Soul Infusion, make that rat a little bit bigger.
Oh yes, that scene in Ratatouille where Remy gets buff and then just beats up the food critic.
It's the extended cut version. It's only on DVD.
Director's cut.
It's on Blu-ray if anyone has those anymore. The fact that DVDs and Blu-rays feel like such a flash in the pan in terms of technology life cycle.
We're really getting into the life cycle of DVDs now, right? That is a hard step away from anything we've talked about before.
Sometimes you need to make a hard step.
What's the deal with VHS?
Remember mini discs?
No.
Yo, you probably won't.
I'm
Actually,
not
I keep forgetting how old you are. Oh, anyway, back to more relevant things, like Ratatouille. Surrender's in such a difficult position because Ziliax looks like a good turn, but it also just kind of isn't. Do you think if a Shadow Steps it?
No.
Oh,
I don't like that at all.
I feel like everything Surrender's going to do for the next few turns is just not going to be close to enough.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like, look at how close he is to having an insane hand. Imagine if he top decks Rat off the top. Just being able to go Shark, Rat, Shadow Step it, Rat again, set up for an insane turn of lackeys on the following turn. He's not that low on health. Like, I think Surrender has a lot of draws that pull him quite drastically back into the game. That's one of them. We could see Backstab, SI7 Agent on the Shark, sorry, on the Fox, or I guess Backstab the Shark, SI7 Agent the Edwin, stab the Fox, and then Edwin. It's not bad, right?
What if he just Sharks this turn?
That's also
and
very
daggers
reasonable.
the Edwin
Yeah.
down and just takes the heat. And then
Yeah, maybe
next
that's better.
turn, there's a much bigger turn with cloning SI, which hits for double,
And
into
Shadow-
Van Cleef, which hits for double. And you can
Yeah.
whip a Shadow Step in, depending on what goes on.
Yeah, I guess you could, if he goes Shark. It's just whether or not he wants to take the damage, right? Because this play is lower power level, but it happens immediately. So he's taking less turns of damage.
I just feel like this strands a lot of cards in his
I
hand.
feel like it almost does, but I actually think from Surrender, the pick of exactly cloning device gets him to the point where he can very, very consistently hit those kind of cards like Evil Cable Rat or exactly Evil Miscreant. I think it's really not that unlikely to find it. One of the two, at least.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like one of us is getting cloning wrong, whether you're overestimating it and I'm underestimating it. I'm being serious though.
It's somewhere
Because
in the
for
middle.
me, I just think like, well, what if he doesn't get it and then he's got nothing? And then, I feel like it's going to go one way. I'm not sure whose way it's going to go here.
Yeah, I mean, it's still cloning device, right? It's not a card that's ever seen play in Hearthstone, even at 1 mana. It's only going to be so good. But I think it allows him to go for this slightly different play style.
The Shark into draw now is actually pretty sick. Shark into Novice Engineer, Shadow Step.
Well, we can see Shark, Novice Engineer, value trade, step the Edwin, play it again.
That's probably better, yeah. I actually just didn't add up the mana to make Van Cleef 1 then after the Shadow Step.
It's got to be a Shark turn this turn, though, right? Yeah.
Yes, I think Surrender cannot wait. Not after seeing the 1 pick.
I hope you like my invention.
Alright, what's in the box? Ooh. Ooh! Wow, okay, these are some cards. So now we could see Backstab. So he could just go all in on saying if you don't have Stab, the game ends. Or some way to deal with this Edwin. It could come off the Burglar.
So I might be biased because I can see this stat, and last game happened, but I think that draw means he doesn't have to do that. I think like just Backstab Vendetta, dagger the 1/1, Shadow Step the Shadow Step the Novice Engineer, and just draw more cards.
Really?
I think so.
No way. Like,
Is he going clear?
okay, he's definitely going to. Because this is a 100%. If you do not have this card, the game ends on the spot.
That's true,
And if not,
but
the game carries on because he still has Cloning Device, which can find such a wide range of cards that are so good. I think if Surrender did not have Cloning Device, he very possibly would not have done this.
but Wand means Tyler's drawn half his deck and he gets 3 cards for 0. Yeah, I see your point. Oh, it's so rough.
I agree. He's not. It was not that likely to work, or it was not ridiculous for Tyler to have the answer. But the point I'm making is that Surrender has backup very reliably, I think, with this cloning device.
Okay, well, let's see how reliably is. That was a smooth sentence I got out.
Oof.
All right, you win
look
this
at
round.
that.
You win this round.
That's insane!
I hate you sometimes, Dad. You and Frozen can go and play Hearthstone together.
I don't think that me saying Miscreant is a card that's in the deck puts me on the same level as Frozen.
Well, I don't know. It's pretty high-level analysis.
It's not actually a super easy choice, though, because Novice Engineer allows for Novice, Abyss, and Edwin, and obviously draws him further into his own deck, which is pretty powerful. Miscreant gets him 4 lackeys, though. Lackeys are good. Can he afford to
full circle?
Can he afford to take that much more damage, though? Because it's not like he has that much healing. Well, none in hand at the moment, unless he takes the Ziliax, which I think would be absurd.
Come for the draw.
I like my invention.
a very reasonably sized headwind, I think it's fair to say.
I mean, sets up lethal perfectly.
It does set up lethal. And so for Tyler, he has no answer to it.
It's Blink Fox into Sap.
Unless he hits something off Blink Fox. He could hit Blink Fox, Sap, walk the plank, assassinate.
He can also Blink Fox twice.
He can.
And remember, although Blink Fox into Vendetta does not often work, if you already have a card, then he can Blink Fox to try and get a Vendetta or something to try and add up some damage.
Yeah, it's probably a little ways off at that point. Tyler's now wondering if he should attack face and bounce the rat to get like exactly Ethereal Lackey, but that's probably that's got to be.
That's less likely,
that
right?
has to be less likely, because if you get the Ethereal Lackey, you're more likely to find the answer because it's discover instead of random. But you only have a 1 out of 5. Exactly. So in the end, it looks like he's not going for the answer at all, and is instead just saying, this has to be enough.
It feels bad when you've not got a Leroy in hand to make a play like this. Just get to push some damage. Does that Life Drinker SI7 agent?
He doesn't play the Life Drinker again, though.
And he doesn't Holy Light.
Which is lethal. If we had seen Life Drinker or Holy Light there, Tyler stays alive.
I was surprised he didn't play either.
Me too.
I thought he would have played one of them.
So did I.
And that's just game. Surrender. All smiles as he holds on to his match here and evens this series up 1-1. And I'm kind of surprised. I thought with Life Drinker and Holy Light, like, yes, he's a 3-3 down if he played Holy Light, but he has when you've got that much power already represented on board and you know you aren't going to deal with it, you're taking 14 minimum, then like Holy Light really pushes the boundaries of he has to have absurd cards to kill me, whereas not healing at all made it like, oh well, if he has this, I'm dead. Because there was even like Eviscerate as well. That even if you lack it into it, for example, there's enough cards that made up the damage there. Leroy plus X could have got him there.
Yeah, I guess if he goes for the
wait, what mana was he on?
Wait,
9, right? So you could have had Waggle Pick as well.
Yes, right. Yeah, yeah. It could have
there was
been,
a lot of cards. There was actually a significant amount of cards.
Yeah, I think they're from Tyler. I think it should have been Lackey and then either of the 2 healing cards, probably Life Drinker, to be perfectly honest. You know, I guess he was maybe saving Spirit the Shark, something like that. I think overall the most likely scenario, though, is he was just running out of time at the end, wanted to play something, and left himself dead to a fairly easy combination of cards, which did come through from Surrender, which, you know, whether or not Tyler would have won the game had he survived the turn is another question entirely.
Right.
But he could have given himself a much higher probability of surviving until the following turn.
Yeah, I think it was the aggressive play and ignoring Edwin. Yes, he couldn't do anything about Edwin anyway, so you do have to make that play. But if you're going to line up an aggressive play, then I think you also make yourself safe enough to continue the aggression the following turn. And because it wasn't just exactly like Leroy plus X card, it was Leroy plus one of multiple cards that could have been drawn and played, fit in the turn fine. I think it was a little bit risky considering the, like, after casting Vendetta, that what was the Holy Light going to do next turn? Like, nothing anyway, right? The game probably ends either way.
Yeah.
Strange one.
It is, and it does mean we're going to game 3 here, right down to the wire. Again, for these players, if they win, they are not qualified through to the semi-finals. If they lose, they are not out. But losing means they are right on the brink. One more loss will send them home and out of contention to go through to the global finals, at least from Season 1 of players. They'd have another chance in Season 2.
Yeah, and funnily enough, it's a bit of a weird way that the group could shake out anyway, but I feel like the person who wins here has a fairly solid chance at actually winning the group, because then they directly go to face Shaxi, which means, Rogue versus Mage I think is reasonably decent for the Rogue.
Yes.
Which means they win the group, but the way, because it's a 3-man group, it means the other Rogue player will also then face Shaxi, which then has a decent chance of getting through the group.
True.
So I feel like because of how it's just laid out right now with 2 Rogues and 1 Mage, I feel like both Rogue players, win or loss, are going to be feeling at least comfortable knowing that their next matchup is probably going to be against Shaxi if everything goes to plan.
Yeah.
But the second Shaxi wins, they'd have to play like another mirror to carry on. It would be, it would feel, you want to play 2 mirrors to try and get through to playoffs. To the last day of playoffs would feel awkward. I would not enjoy that personally.
Yeah, I think both of these players would definitely rather go up against the mage. I definitely don't think it's an especially favorable matchup. I think it's really, really close. And as you know, I think players, to be honest, have kind of plateaued with Rogue in terms of how good the overall player base at the top of the game has gotten at it. Whereas I would say with Mage, players continue to get better with the deck because it's so difficult, in my opinion, so difficult to play correctly. But as players get better, I think the matchup will edge closer and closer to a true even matchup. And one of my favorites to watch as well. I do like a Rogue versus Mage.
It's because they're both as overpowered as each other.
Right, exactly.
It's one of the funny things, isn't it, when like we've seen classes need nerfs, you know, decks, cards, etc. need nerfs.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, just buff everything else,
Yeah.
make everything broken.
I love buffs, dude.
Like it would be so.
I
nuts.
love buffs, dude. Not
You
I
love-
love buff dudes. Although
There's nothing wrong with that, Derek.
you know.
There's nothing wrong with that. You do you. That's all that matters.
I'm not saying I don't love buff dudes.
Uh-oh. Let's just go straight away from this conversation and straight into game number 3, Surrender versus Tyler. And this is for effectively just quite a significant advantage to go through to tomorrow in the group.
Big time. Yeah, again, with the discussion can rage on and on, but you would definitely, I think, rather face the Mage than the Rogue mirror again. Especially as both of these players have a somewhat anti-Mage teched primary with the Eviscerate in there, which definitely helps them in that matchup, and then a tertiary anti-Mage deck for both of these players. So yes, again, given that they have no anti-Rogue teched tertiary or secondary deck, it's not looking great. Speaking of not looking great, Tyler, I think, was just trying to do an L sign there. Got it the wrong way round, it's worth saying. But with the
camera issues.
I think he's realizing this hand is not a winner as it currently stands.
No, his next draws, he literally has to chain into like Miscreant into Shark as his next draws to get cooking, whereas Surrender's hand, I think, it's fantastic.
Juice. This is the, I mean, it's not the nuts from Surrender, but it's bloomin' good.
You'd be, if this was your hand every game, you'd be very, very happy.
Yes. I would be rank 1 legend. Actually, I probably wouldn't, but I'd be less of a bad rank than I currently am. Yeah. I'll have you know, I high rolled my way to legend.
Did you play Mage?
I did not actually. I was.
Oh, really?
It's even more embarrassing than that. I was playing a bunch of Mage and I couldn't get past rank 4. Like even though I've got Legend with Mage the last couple of months, and I love that deck, I just couldn't win with it this time. And I switched to War Control's aggro Shaman. Just like absolutely demolished everyone. Like it wasn't. It didn't even feel close.
That deck's actually pretty fun.
It's so sick. 15 2-offs.
Blinkfox going to come down now for Surrender. He's not going for that early Miscreant, and I think honestly, it's
Surrender's face like.
It's because he doesn't gain tons of advantage from having the lackeys in hand right now.
Yeah.
Whereas having a 3/3 on the board is just a reasonable threat.
Yeah, I think this is, you know, this is reasonable, right? Like, if possible, Surrender definitely wants to move towards Coin Togwaggle would be the absolute dream if he's able to stick a lackey going into step 5, which, I don't know, as it currently stands, doesn't seem ridiculous. Like, if we see Backstab Miscreant on this turn, either Kobold Lackey or Goblin Lackey would allow him to clear off the Miscreant, and I guess the Dagger would take care of the other Lackey, but either way, he's still got a lot of Lackeys to go with the Cable Rat as well.
I think after seeing Backstab, just the Hench Clan Burglar feels really good this turn. Oh, he's going to get the Miscreant active, okay.
I think I like this. I think you just want to go as wide as possible, as soon as possible.
Got the Witchy Lackey for the Evolve potential. Does he need to discover a spell this turn? I feel like the Ethereal Lackey, not only just overall, in my opinion, the best, but also the best with Shark too. Discovering the more spells, and because it's a discover, it just feels so powerful in Rogue.
I think it's like overall the best. I think these are like the two that he didn't want to see in this situation though, because Kobold or Goblin allows him to clear off the Miscreant, which is pretty huge. And Faceless just allows him to go wide. Like, imagine if he had double Faceless Lackey here, he just coined them both out and be in a fantastic spot.
Ooh.
Those are some fantastic options, though. He steps them. Oh, okay. No, yeah, this is
got
smart.
0 mana.
Yes. I always get surprised when I see players not Shadow Step the Miscreant, but yes, to set up the Togwaggle next turn or turn 6, this is correct.
killer card on offer for Tyler as the sap is there. Feels like it's been quite influential in this mirror match so far.
It really does.
The Eviscerate could line up.
It's not bad, yeah. Tyler needs to consider what kind of a hand he has at the moment, because Eviscerate can go face, which definitely gives it a lot of merit in this kind of a matchup, especially as he has double Vendetta already, which means as soon as he picks up a Henge Burglar, that's already a tremendous amount of removal.
So he needs Violet Haze and Necrium Vial to combo together.
Sure.
Yeah, Betrayal seems okay. He's gone for Violet Haze though. Okay, okay. I'm a little bit surprised. Yeah. I think Betrayal just often gets something. And even if it just kills two lackeys,
Betrayal wasn't going to be very good. Oh, Violet Haze can... Oh, it can activate his Vendettas, right? Because it just has 2 random death rattles, so they could be from another class.
True, true.
That's a pretty big merit, I would say. Like, the difference between having 4 mana and 0 mana Vendettas is huge.
How many classes have class death rattle minions? Is there a lot of them?
I mean, I don't think there's loads of them, but I think they all have death rattles in them, at least one.
I guess so. Now though, Surrender's going to face down a huge Van Cleef here. He does have sap available though. But now, I think because of this Van Cleef, he's just shying away from this Togwaggle plan.
Just doesn't feel comfortable. I wonder if we'll see the Ethereal Lackey though, because obviously he does not have to save it to go for Togwaggle next turn.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's a good one.
It'll help though.
I mean, is there ever a reason not to?
Is that the Queen walk the plank? Because he could zap it, he could pick walk the plank, but he doesn't have to play it. But Shadow Step's also just a not so powerful card for this hand. I like this.
Sap it this turn.
Yeah.
And then walk the plank it when you need to.
Right, exactly. Make him spend the mana on making a bigger Edwin, when in all likelihood, Tyler cannot do it in Edwin at that low. Oh! Silverback Patriarch here is the nuts, protecting the rest of his lackeys. That's insane. I'm just putting that in Rogue.
It's like Evil Miscreant, but with Taunt. It's like so much more powerful. It's like a whole extra keyword.
Silverback Patriarch is literally strictly better Evil Miscreant. And look, there we have it. The Henge Clan...
Wait, what?
What's that card even? The Shade Quill from Priest. I forgot that it can give Death Rattle cards, not just minions as well. The Serrated Tooth off the...
Serrated Tooth just isn't a bad card, especially in this matchup. Gaining the sort of live tempo from some minions you play.
Serrated Tooth, it could actually just be insane. A big Edwin rushing in, even just a Shade Quill.
Well, I know Serrated Tooth was messed around with, I think, with Bunny Hopper and Viper when they were building Bunny Rogue. Right?
Yes, yeah, I know that Sir Salty as well, a UK Hearthstone player, was messing around with a version of the deck with Serrated Tooth as well.
It's really just...
I wrecked him with it though.
I think it's just another Rogue card that is actually good,
it is good,
but not good enough in Rogue today.
The effect it gives is just a base level in a vacuum, very powerful.
Still, not as good as Dr. Boom's effect, but it is a 1-mana card versus a 7-mana legendary.
Yes, I mean... These witchy lackeys have not been all too kind to Surrender though. Like, you just want one that he can throw down that's just good, like the Faceless or the Ethereal, to go with Togwaggle probably next turn, as I imagine it's likely to be.
What if he just pulls the trigger on Tog now?
Tank the 8.
There's a 5/5 on the board that you'll have. You get to wand, and then either if he doesn't trade, walk the plank it next turn. If he does trade, well, it's going to die to Eviscerate. He's not going to. He's going to play it safer.
I think it's very reasonable to assume that next turn, especially with the minion he currently has in play now, that he will be facing down less pressure. And health is a very, very, valuable resource at this point. Got to be said as well, though, for Tyler, this Violet Haze has been pretty decent. Just getting him another thing he can throw down and activating the Vendetta.
That was like weird mana usage from Tyler.
What, that he didn't go with the Vendetta?
Yeah. He used an Eviscerate, which, yes, used up his mana better, but now his Vendetta's not live.
Right, I mean, well,
And
I think it very possibly was he played the Shade Quill and then realized, oops.
Yeah. Because that's what I mean, that, like, I get using your mana, but now
if
you
it
have to use
stayed zero?
more. Yeah. If it stayed 0, then you go, okay, one Eviscerate's fine to keep the flexibility of Vendetta at 0 mana later. But I think that might have just been a mistake. Because Eviscerate can also go phase.
I mean, it plays to the top deck of Henge Clan Burglar, but I agree that's
Oh.
That feels good.
Job done. Also, so Tyler maybe naturally gonna have to play slower because of this Shade Quill. He's gonna heal Surrender up when he dies.
And I think the fact he's doing that pretty well, right? Like, I think tanking the damage is pretty smart because he has so much healing. He's going to need a lot of healing though, because from Surrender, this is going to be a powerhouse turn. This is going to be insane. How does he sequence it correct? Like, I mean, at the moment I'm looking at Vendetta, Eviscerate, Lab Recruiter.
What about Life Drinker Shuffle?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if that's good or bad. Like, is a Life Drinker better than your average draw as it currently stands? I'm not sure it is. Maybe it is.
I think it might be. How do you ever die with if you chain like Life Drinkers?
I guess he's got a lot of value already. He just wants to find Shark though, right? And
that is
like
true.
the real powerhouse cards.
But he also does the same thing of asking Tyler, does he have an answer to Van Cleef?
I mean, he could even go for the Lab Recruiter last and shuffle their Edwin from even suffering a -2/-2. Or he could just do this.
Yeah. This is also a play.
Ooh, okay, these are some powerful combo cards here. So he doesn't even actually have to use the sap on this turn, does he? Because Eviscerate plus SI with the Shark is a clear on the Edwin. And then he could even give Rush to his other minions, which will allow him to clear off the rest, even taking a value trade with the Shade Quill.
Yeah, put the Life Drinker into one of them.
Yes.
Value the Shade Quill into the Life Drinker, kill the Van Cleef.
Just depends whether he favors the sap more. I think I'd probably like that more, right? Because if you sap the Edwin and it comes down even bigger, then you have no answer. Yeah.
You can't say that you can guarantee clear it, whereas this turn it does die.
Interesting. Okay.
One thing that's going to be difficult for Tyler, and I'm not sure if this has influenced his decision right now or not, is that he just has no stuff anymore, and Surrender has a lot.
Yeah.
So like he needs to do something.
I guess
about the game. So he saved an Eviscerate by using
the high
a sap.
regression line, I suppose.
Ooh. Well,
Triple
clean.
Warpath plus Edwin. That's pretty nuts.
Should he have? Should he ever Vendetta there?
Just for +2/+2.
Yeah. You go up to 10. 10's pretty hard. 8's doable by Rogue. 10's a lot harder.
Wait, oh no, Vendetta always costs 0 because it came off the the wand.
Yeah, I might mean just to
Right,
proc.
sorry.
Because like 10 instead of 8, I feel is the world of difference versus Rogue.
Is it?
Well, Vendetta's
Vendetta,
Eviscerate.
Yeah, but I mean, he's already seen Eviscerate. Well, he's seen both Vendettas already, right? He's seen an Eviscerate
just like
as
discover
well.
effects, and I don't know.
I think I like holding on to the Vendetta. I think that's more. It's more likely to go wrong with just him needing to swing tempo in his favor. Tyler here, I mean, you know, the line of play he went for, it had its merits because it got him more bored immediately at the potential risk of having to face exactly this. I mean, I don't mean exactly Warpath, but some kind of clear and then an Edwin that he cannot deal with. Because as it currently stands, I mean, he can deal with the Edwin.
It's just unfun.
It's everything. It's all his resources that go into it.
Guess if he does that, does he actually Shadow Step the Zilliax to try and guarantee more health the turn after?
No, right? Like he has to save the Shadow Step to go for a Miscreant off the top or whatever.
But then how does he proc the Miscreant? He has to wait like 2 turns, right?
Yeah, I guess. Actually,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You'd have to play it, step it, and then play it again.
Yeah. Just going to concede.
Doesn't even see it as worth playing out.
Yep, and that's going to be it. Surrender moves through, and a
Wow.
bit of game kind of finished out nowhere, to be honest.
I was kind of caught by
we're-
surprise.
Me and Dara were just talking about Shadow Steps, and suddenly the game's over.
Yeah.
It ends, but Tyler conceding that. I think there were a couple of plays that, if I'm honest, kind of led Tyler to losing that series. I think there was definitely a few things he could have done differently.
Yeah.
Whether that's altered by our caster vision, of course, is a different question. But I think some of the saps and maybe just some of the other turns could have been done the other way around, obviously, that we could see would have been a little bit more safer, and maybe they were safer just more consistently.
Well, you know, like I said, his plays had merits, right? Because the play that he went for of sapping the Edwin and then following up with more board presence, it meant he didn't have to sacrifice off his minions with the swing of the Serrated Tooth and then rushing them in, which meant if Surrender did not have the board clear, he could maybe go for an aggression game and top deck Edwin and then go Edwin Leroy Shadow Step, stuff like that. Go for the lethal a little bit quicker. It clearly did not work out because there was the Warpath there which completely cleared it. But I don't even know if it didn't have to be exactly Warpath. It could have just been, any kind of clear off of a randomly generated effect, but also just Vendettas, Backstabs, SI7 agents, lackeys, things like that.
I think although rogue matches recently, or current meta, can get a little bit weird because of all the discovers, lackey involvements, but I feel like that one was just a weird rogue mirror. It were just strange things that happened from both sides. I'm not even on about players' plays, just the outcomes of the game as well. I do think we are just going to go to a break now. Oh, we're going to look at the bracket, actually. Sorry, apologies. We've got the updated bracket. So Surrender is going to go through. He's going to be playing Shaxi. And then the loser of that match will go down there and play against Tyler. Loser of that match is out. The winner stays in.
That's right. As you can see, the two spots at the end there with the crowns on top, that means you're through to the semi-finals. So Shaxi or Surrender, either of those players win, guaranteed through to the semi-finals. The loser still has a shot, but Tyler now going to be fighting for his tournament life in the next match.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit tense a little bit later, but we are just going to go to a quick break and sort out the next match and get that one ready for you guys. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with some more Grandmasters playoffs.
本名叫刘伟杰，游戏 ID 叫学习，然后我有退取 Facebook。白头奶的 ID 其实是好像是朋友帮我取的，因为那时候就是想要一个酷炫的英文名字，然后还是帮我取之外，我才知道原来这叫念学习。俄罗斯最经典的回忆应该是那个世界赛奥斯卡跟泰斯打的那一场，就是兵法打兵法内战这样。 就是两边打的几乎也是水深火热，很感动。我最喜欢的大师职业选手就是 RDU， 因为我是看他比赛才看到有点感动，我才喜欢上这款游戏。对我而言，成为大师的话，就是代表说我在这款游戏中我被认可了，我会继续努力。
My name is Jungsu Kim. I am Surrender. You can find me at Twitter with SurrenderHS. If there is a rival in my group, then it should be Tom, I think, since we played each other so many times and I always lost to him. Yeah, it should be Tom. I really want to beat him. Ferrari. He's one of my favorite Korean player. He's like 6 years older than me, so he treats me like his little brother. But if we have to face each other, then I'm gonna beat him, of course. I think every single Hearthstone player can agree with that EU is the best, since they always have the highest cut for playoffs, and World had top 3 European players for top 4, right? So EU is the best, and I think Asia is the second one. Yeah, we had higher cut for playoffs than America, so I think America is the worst. Then my favorite memory is, I think, is It's the Worlds in 2015. I was staying in 6th place at the time and helping Osaka for his preparation. And I was cheering with 6th for him. And when he was winning the Worlds, we kept drinking. We were super happy for him. Yeah, it's just the most memorable memory.
I think I've been pretty predictable in the past because I just like to bring the strongest deck every time. But I feel like in Specialist, I can't afford to just bring the strongest deck and just beat every opponent because I play better than them. I respect Pathra a lot as a player. Like, she's very smart. I've seen her play since 2016. We've played together, and I've gotten to know how she thinks about the game. And she is really good. I feel like there's people might look down on her because she's a woman, like the only woman in the tournament, the only girl. But I think people shouldn't look down on her. I think she's really good, and she deserves to be here. Interesting stuff you may not know about me. I'm a very free spirit. I do everything what I want to do in life. If there's anything I want to do, I just go for it. I don't think about it. And if there's anything I want to achieve, I just do it. So, like, to give you an example, I quit college to pursue fashion photography. And then I ended up quitting fashion photography to pursue a pro gaming career in Hearthstone. Even though everyone was super confused about all my career choices and didn't understand why I was constantly doing these type of stuff. That's just me. I like doing everything. Oh, before that, I was also doing breakdancing, and I was working as a breakdance teacher. So yeah, I have lots of stuff I like to do.
We are back and ready to continue with the playoffs. Day number 2 here at the Asia Pacific Grandmasters. We have Shaxi versus Surrender coming right up. Surrender just taking a win over Tyler in what I would say was a bit of a strange one, but a very close series. I think it could have gone either way very easily in that road mirror.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth. And if I remember correctly, a lot of players are going first, winning as well in that first series. I think the last one might have been Surrender and McCoy taking the win. But either way, it's what I like to see, a bit of a shake-up of the expected result. But that's going to be very different here, as we are not with another rogue mirror. We're with the cornerstone, I would say, of the current meta, which is Rogue versus Mage. The two decks, I would say, vying for #1 spot in terms of the player's perception. What is the best deck in Hearthstone at the moment? On the one side, you have the Cyclone Mage with its ridiculously powerful combos. Mountain Giant, Conjurer's Calling. When you cast it on a reduced cost Mountain Giant, you have a 50% chance, or one half of the minions are Grave Horror, 7/8 taunts, which offers such ridiculous defensive capabilities, whilst also pushing towards your lethal capabilities as well.
Yeah, and I think that Shaxi's build overall, it's something we didn't really touch on yesterday because it didn't really come up, but the whole, one Frostbolt, Snip, Snap, that one card that definitely is floating right now, in Shaxi's list, he's gone for this Sandbinder, which is, like I said, we didn't mention it, but it's a card I've liked for a long time because all I see is 4 mana in a deck that you don't really have any 4-drops outside of Giants in some circumstances, of course. 4 mana, 2/4, decent stats, draw a good card from your deck. Like, that is a solid tutoring style effect in a deck that either draws a Cyclone or a Mountain Giant, which is very, very powerful indeed. So just yet another slight variation of the list that I have, to be honest, no real complaints about.
Yes, I like it a lot, especially with the Luna's Pocket Galaxy. Just having another draw effect to tutor out those 1 or 0 mana minions, I think is very, very powerful. I've got to be honest, I'm very curious to know what the practice partners are, especially between regions, because it feels like in Europe and APAC as well, which are the two main regions I've been watching, with America's being a bit too late to catch. But I've seen a lot of European players as well also going with similar lists. I think Fino had the exact same list in his primary. A lot of players going for the 2 halftime scavengers substituted in their anti-rogue list. I believe Alutemo and Hunter Race are also big favourites of those particular sideboards. So I'm curious to see what the practice groups are, because I feel like as a community, we are getting closer and closer to the specialist mage lineup.
Right, yeah, and I think...
That was Rogue, by the way, as well.
Yeah, we saw Rogue, it's fine. I agree, because I think there's a weird thing going on as well, where there's the practice groups, which work out the decks, so on and so on. But then also, because this isn't new, it's not the first week we've seen it.
Yeah.
If I was a player, I would look at every deck list that has been submitted, how well it did across all regions.
Yeah.
And suddenly, the second I would see this secondary list, which is the halftime scavenger in the mage,
Right.
I would just be like, wow, only 2
That
cards
seems
change.
good. Yeah.
And they seem solid. And I did just mention, mage doesn't really have the 4-drop, which is why I like Sandbinder.
Yeah.
It's like, yes. Okay, I'm sold. And I think I would have done the same and just said, this is just a very solid anti-aggro list. You have a lot of anti-aggro cards in Mage. Novas, the Ray of Frost, just early minions, sometimes in general, is good enough. But let's get into this winning group match. Shaxi versus Surrender. The winner cements a place tomorrow in the finals of the Asia Pacific Playoffs. The
Semi-finals.
Okay, the final day. I meant the final day event of... No, it's fine. I'll let you off.
Just thought I'd clarify, just to avoid confusion.
In the semi-finals of the final day of the final of Season 1.
Well, it's not the final of Season 1. It's the final day.
I'm just winding
of
Derek
Season
up
1.
now.
As you are succeeding. Congratulations.
It's Shaxi versus Surrender.
Well, technically... No, you're correct.
I'm like, where's he going to go with this? It's just a Scooby-Doo effect where one of them just pulls a mask off and it's, oh no, it's someone else.
It was Crip the whole time. You had no idea.
Crip's like, I would have got away with it too if it wasn't for you pesky kids. It's definitely something I think Crip would say. If he was trying to get away with something, I'm not really sure what that would be, but I think if it was,
he would use those exact
that
words.
phrase, yes.
Shaxi already presented with a somewhat interesting choice. We could just see a re-roll on the magic trick. It would be effectively free, given that he's got floating a mana on this turn, but he's come to the conclusion that unexpected results is better than another discover effect off of the magic trick, which I think is reasonable. But I've got to be honest, I don't know if I would actually come to the same conclusion. I think that on turn 3, he, even if unexpected results is better, he already had very decent plays. The 2 cards you want to play on 3 of Intellect or Banana Buffoon. So I think maybe going for Magic Trick again to look for one of the removal spells like Frostbolt, Icicle, Ray of Frost, maybe another Conjurer's Calling, a Frost Nova. There were a lot of good cards. Shooting Star. Like, I think there were a lot of good options there.
Is 2 minions more anti-aggro than 1 removal spell, though, is the question, I suppose, right? Because if you say, okay, Arcane Intellect this turn seems good, but if Surrender goes a little bit wide in the following turns, does 2 drops on average do more than a removal? Maybe.
I think it's possible, but I think the arguments I would make is that a couple of small minions is very, very easy for Rogue to deal with. It's what they do best. They have Backstab, SI7 Agent, Lackeys now as well, Vendetta, all that good stuff. And it's the saturation on 3 mana, because, you know, even if he wants to go 3-drop on 3, 3-drop on 4 as well, he could still have done that with Banana Buffoon and then Arcane Intellect to curve out with the Banana as well for full mana utilization. And I have the fear that for Shaxi, it's this unexpected results is going to get stranded, which, you know, we're kind of talking as if it's for granted that he hits a removal spell on the second magic trick. It could have been 3 garbage secrets. You know, it could have been way worse than that, which is why this is the safe pick in the unexpected results. But I still think that Shaxi maybe could have gone a little bit more optimistic there in terms of what he was looking to hit.
Yeah, I guess this gives him a lot of options going forward, because look at next turn after this Buffoon. It can be unexpected results and a Banana. He could just play Sandbinder.
Yeah.
He could Arcane Intellect and Banana a minion if it lives.
True.
You know, this gives him just a ton of different options. Maybe that's worth it, but I actually
if he finds Khadgar as well, it's insane.
Yeah, I actually think picking a spell that early in the game from Magic Trick is really hard in the deck. Like, I think it's super difficult. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the fact we've been talking about it for 3 turns now, just, you know, it proves that.
And we've been talking about 2 outcomes
or,
as well.
Or how difficult it is. And, you know, in this instance, I'm going to assume the former rather than the latter, or somewhere in between.
Now another interesting choice. Sandbinder feels the most secure. Like I said, it's just 4 mana, 2/4, draw a good card.
Yeah.
And especially with Bananas already being in hand, this Cyclone, even if in its worst case scenario for Shaxi, is actually just at worst okay, I think. Like, nothing too crazy. That's not stranded in itself.
The other thing as well, which is often overlooked, I would argue, with the Sandbinder, is the body, and also just the mana cost. It's a 4 mana minion, so if it survives, you just Conjurer's Calling that straight away, and you are over the moon. As long as you're not taking too much damage.
Or transforming them into Twilight Drakes.
Yes, that would also suck. Or
There's another
What
one,
else?
isn't there? Isn't it the... Oh, is that a 3
oh, the
drop?
Druid one. It's Twilight Drake with Taunt. It costs 1 more. It's a 4 attack minion that gains +1 health for every card in your hand,
Oh,
and it has
yeah,
Taunt.
yeah. I was thinking of the... you know, I think it's a 3 drop. The one that's like faceless, but it just gains the health.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's a 3 drop.
Yeah. Faceless Rager.
Okay.
This is now very tempting. Yeah, as soon as you pick up Apprentice and
Yeah,
Cyclone,
things
I mean,
change.
this is the dream versus Rogue. Apprentice Cyclone is exactly what you want to do. Now for Surrender, he can pop off, is I believe the expression.
That the young kids say.
Yeah. It's not the dream because he doesn't have mirror image, basically, or elemental evocation would both be absolutely mental. But
it
it
ain't
is
half
still,
bad,
yeah,
is
it's
it?
a 2-mana 2/2 that adds 4 cards to your hand.
Oh.
You will take that.
And also, there's a chance with this specific mana that, or even with no mana, he could get mirror images. He could get another Ray of Frost, because Apprentice just opens up so many options, and I actually kind of like going for Research Project.
I love ripping the Research Project there. I think Shaxi came to the correct conclusion that his cards are much better as it currently stands than Surrender's cards. I'm not sure if I agree with holding on to the mirror image there. I think that might have been the case of him ending the turn too early.
No, I think I like it.
Really?
He has Sea Giant, and Surrender's probably playing stuff this turn with a full hand, right?
I guess.
And you know Surrender's got lackeys.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Like, if Shaxi just rips a cheap Sea Giant into Conjurer's next
Fair
turn, he
enough.
could just win.
Yes,
Like,
no, that is a
and
good
it's,
point.
I don't think it's
Fair enough.
incredibly unlikely.
Yeah. I guess I was overvaluing keeping the Apprentice alive. Because as it currently stands, you're right. His win condition isn't cheating mana out on spells. It's giant
Cheating
conjurers.
big boys out.
Yes, exactly.
And also, I think upon reflection of Surrender's turn, holding the images could also end up Shaxi taking the route of Antonidas maybe as well.
Very
Going,
possible.
Antonidas images something later down the line to generate some fireballs and put a different kind of pressure on Surrender. But now we'll see how wide Surrender actually goes. He does have a Van Cleave, which is pretty nice.
Oh, yeah. He's going nice and
Wide.
wide here.
I think double time is actually way more than just double time.
Quadruple time.
Okay, so 4 minions on the board. He can mirror image and then make that giant 4 cost, but that's not going to help out with the
Yeah.
with the Conjurers calling in the same turn.
Polyping?
I mean, I don't see why not. You face it down with 4 damage. You are on 20, which feels a little bit close to the edge, I think, if I was in Jax's seat right now. But if the follow-up is then like, you know, mirror images, Sea Giant Conjuring, or mirror images, Sea Giant Ice Barrier, then you know what? That's a follow-up I wouldn't be too upset about by taking 4 damage next turn.
What to do?
So Shaxi first of all needs to come to the decision of whether or not he's in a position where he can just ignore board. But I don't mean ignore board, sorry, I mean not have to remove anything, because he could Snap Freeze on this turn, which frees up more mana, like Snap Freeze Ice Barrier or something, to set up for next turn, Image, Giant, Conjurer's Calling, freeze the board next turn, whatever. Just, he has so many good top decks. Or is he in the situation where he has to remove this Edwin and keep fighting for board? I think I agree with this. I don't think he's in such a good position where he can just completely ignore the Edwin for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think if he was ripping cheap Mountain Giants,
yes,
we
that
could
would
have a very
change
different
things.
conversation.
100%.
But because they're exactly Sea Giants, yes, it could present lethal that turn, but it
There's
probably
no
isn't going to
taunts.
be a taunt and you just die the turn
Yes,
after.
there are no taunts on 10 mana. No rushes either, with Mulch Muncher going to 9.
So Surrender can choose to make the game quite simple and just go waggle pick face. And then he can just make lethal, or at least make lethal in a couple of turns. Because he can't do it exactly next turn,
He needs to think about
he can buy a turn and present some more damage right now.
what happens if Giant Conjurers comes down. Mountain Giant Conjurers Calling, sorry, comes down. In that instance,
Well, he has
he's sad no matter what then, right?
Yeah, he has a wiggle room turn anyway, right?
Yeah.
He can't step the Leroy on 7.
It's true. or he can't play it again.
Or what if he? There's always the option of Waggle Pick swing. Next turn, depending on the board state, of course. Leroy swing, bounce.
That's what I mean.
And
Like
then
he
follow
doesn't
after,
play it
yeah.
again. Yeah. He can bounce it but not replay it. I think this is smart. I think that if he's met with Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling, he's sad, but it's not the end of the world. Quite yet. He still has outs. Or he's actually still in a reasonable position then.
Ooh, double mirror image. Is it worth a double image Sea Giant Conjuring?
So is that a possible play? It would be 4 minions that come down, so that would be 1 mana off being playable, I think, because Giant goes down to 3. Yeah.
I over added.
So Luna double mirror image reduces the cost by 5, which would allow just for Mountain Giant to be played as well. So Luna double mirror images Sea Giant is a play this turn, I think. Which seems reasonable, because if you can't play the Conjurer's Calling on the same turn, this is a great way to draw cards, set up board.
Maybe there's a Nova, maybe there's a Ray of Frost, you know. All Shaxi needs is just a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And this plus Ice Barrier in an emergency could just
Should
be
get
enough
him
time.
Yeah. I like the holding of Khadgar as well. There was the obvious play of going Khadgar to draw a card, mirror images to fill the board. But I think, you know, we could agree getting a Giant in play is more important.
And with this board state from Surrender, I don't actually think they make much difference.
Yes.
The extra image.
So, Surrender, I think, has to be looking at how bad is the situation he's in. Does he have to go for the kind of plays where it's like a 1 out of 4 to step the Leroy with the Waggle Pick?
So he can put 2 1/1s into one. He can backstab another.
And Waggle Pick the other, so he can't break through all the taunts on this turn without a little help from Burglar or Blink Fox. Oh no, unless he could step one of the goblins, right? Which powers up one of the other ones.
What if he just like Burglar Blink Foxes this turn?
I don't know, Raven.
Okay.
This is
Good
tough.
talk.
This is tough.
Because at least they're minions, right?
Yeah, they have
like,
attack in play, but it's getting to the point where Shaxi will likely be able to ignore the board, at least from where Surrender's sat, because as soon as Conjurer's Calling Frost Nova hits the board, the game ends.
Yeah, Surrender has a lot of health though. So he can take a couple of swings at least right now.
I think that was a sheep bounce, which you never want to see.
I thought you said something else then. I was like, well, alright.
Oh, it was also that.
Did he get to play? He didn't, right? Surrender didn't get to discover.
Oh, what? Did it just do it automatically?
Well, if we didn't see it on the UI.
Well, no, sometimes it doesn't show up on the UI, because he played the Blink Fox after,
really?
right? So he had to have clicked something. Even if he just clicked randomly,
Oh, sure.
he played
sure,
the Blink
you're
Fox
right,
up, so it was always a
Yeah, yeah.
choice, even if it was a bad one. We couldn't see what it was, unfortunately. But Kirintor Tricaster,
What to do?
probably just bad. Like, Eviscerate, it obviously powers it up a little bit, but there's nothing too much.
Backstabs too, but we've already seen
Yeah,
them,
yeah.
So
Kirintor Tricaster is a very cool card. I hope we get to see play at some point. One card we do definitely get to see play is the old Conjurer's Calling. Even if he gets the lowest attack possible with all the 4 attack minions here, it's still a super threatening position. And Ice Barrier as well is just the
this is
frosting
looking
on
good
the
to
cake.
me.
Yeah.
Are you excited for the 10 mana mage spell?
Oh, what Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron?
Mm-hmm.
I was so boring. I wasn't really a fan of Yogg-Saron back in the day.
But this card's a little bit different, isn't
It is a little bit different.
Imagine being in a stalemate late game mage and you discover that spell and be like,
That-
okay.
Yeah, okay, that will be pretty hype. I'll give you that.
Caligos buff as well slightly, because like you can Caligos and discover and
That's
play.
true,
Like,
yeah.
you know, and then just see some fireworks
Yeah.
happen.
Will it ever see play? Is it good? Like, is it a good
Well,
card?
interestingly enough, it won't ever stop itself, right? Because you know the way if
Yes.
Yogg killed itself,
Yeah,
it's eventually
After the nerf,
stopped.
yeah.
And you know, similar other things happen, like Shudderwock kind of acts the
Yeah.
same, right? Whereas it can't stop it. You've played the spell, it happens. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff like secrets, and I might even put it not on par with, but lean towards my mindset of it being almost like a Zul'jin. because there are a lot of secrets Mage can cast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of decent generation spells.
Is it just Mage spells? It's not random spells.
Okay, I want to say it's just Mage spells. Maybe it's just random spells, and then
Yeah.
well, and then
And
we
it
can
gets
have
a
a
bit more
different
wacky.
conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's probably just random spells. I feel like Mage spells might be too powerful.
Surrender doing the absolute best he can just to stay alive. Doesn't even proc the doesn't proc the ice barrier on this turn, so I wonder if he's setting up for the out of, I don't know, Life Drinker? Still only 6 damage off the top with Spirit of the Shark. I guess just getting in the damage while he can, right? And hoping that he stays alive, because he had to heal a little bit just to survive.
This is a little bit tricky from everyone, isn't it? From both players. Because although this looks like overwhelmingly...
Oh, wait. Oh, no.
It's not lethal.
Yeah, I was looking at, can you make a fireball, but you can't cast it on the same turn.
Yeah. Well, I was going to get to, I think he should probably make a fireball.
Well, he has outs for lethal, right? Like, he needs 1 damage. He literally needs 1 damage.
That was 2.
With the ping.
Oh, because he could ping. Right?
Yeah. Doesn't find it. No mechs to magnetize onto. Astral Rift for a whole wide range of minions. But still unlikely to get there. I think Ziliax is the safer way to go, right? Like we could see Conjurer's Calling on one of the 10 drops, because there's a few 10 drop mechs, and if Ziliax magnetizes onto one of them, the game ends on the spot. But oh, actually, with the... He'd have to sacrifice off... Oh, wait, he doesn't have Khadgar in play. He could have sacrificed off the minion, and there would have been room to magnetize on it still, just about. But I think either way, this sets up...
You mean just for extra heal, right?
Well, to have room to magnetize the Ziliax onto one of the mechs. If he went for Conjurer's Calling on a 10 drop, got a mech, and he needed to make sure he doesn't have 7 minions in play, so he can't play.
Yeah, I just mean by magnetizing, he would just gain more health.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it wouldn't be lethal. It would just be roundabout lethal because of health gain.
Yes, exactly. And if he gets Mecha Dune and gains 13 health, the game ends on the spot.
Right. Now, though, so it would have to be not Barrier. And there's not enough mana to command in, right?
Commanding Shout.
I was going to say into Eviscerate, Sap, Leroy, Eviscerate, but you can't do it.
Or it would have to be into Eviscerate and Backstab, but obviously only draws 1 card.
So, wait, is it not more likely to go double Burglar into Nova or something?
Probably. I mean, you can still do that, right?
I guess.
Yeah, slight spectator plug it appears, but I assume with a shake of the head, it's not what he's looking for.
Not many people shake their head and go, yes, that's exactly what I want. It's just such a unnatural, physical response to being happy with something. And that's going to be it. Surrender goes down 0-1 so far. Shaxi takes a win with his Mage. And now the real question comes up for me, Derek, of Shaxi going 1-0 up is obviously good for Shaxi. That's just how numbers work.
Yes.
But is his secondary deck better than Surrender's deck to try and play against the Mage?
Right, when they both switch over, which way does the pendulum swing?
Yeah,
Who
because
more
there are circumstances where one player can go 1-0, but when they get to switch, because they know they don't have to lock their primary in, the player who's 0-1 down just has such an advantage that they're still in a decent position to win.
I think, it's not a perfect metric by any stretch of the imagination that the number of cards substituted in equals the efficacy of those cards substituted in. But I think in this instance, for Surrender, given that he's substituting in 5 cards to fire against the Mage, whereas Shaxi only thinks he should substitute in 2 cards, says that the advantage is it's going more over towards Surrender, because he just has more answers to what Shaxi can throw down. Right. The argument would then be that Shaxi does not have to substitute in more cards because his deck is already so powerful and is already in such a good spot. I don't think it is in such a good spot already, though. I think it's in a reasonable position against the Rogue, and will continue to be in a reasonable situation, because cards like Walk the Plank and the One Betrayal can help situations like that. Maybe just being able to walk the plank away the Sea Giant in there would have massively changed the texture of that game for Surrender. But at the same time, you have to find them. The Mage can still pop off with Mana Cyclone, Sorcerer's Apprentice, as we saw in that game. And it's still a close matchup, I believe.
Funnily enough, I actually think the Fairy Dragons are the high-impact cards.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just naturally bolt to Walk the Planks, Betrayals, great versus big giants. Well, just don't let them play stuff, because you've got a Fairy Dragon beating them up that most of the time cannot actually interact with outside of, say, a Sorcerer's Apprentice stick in, and then they have to make the trade. It's like, okay, great. It's definitely a weird one, isn't it? I like both decks that the players are probably going to change to. We've not had confirmation yet, but we're getting it
Pretty
while
likely.
they decide. The only weird thing is it's the Betrayal and Walk the Planks for a loss of Ziliax, Life Drinker, Snip Snap, Novice Engineer, Cable Rat. I feel like that's just a lot of good cards that you're removing from the deck to add in some removal yourself. And I feel like sometimes Rogue can step a bit too far off the gas in the matchup and be a bit too defensive.
I can see that. I think that the Evil Caper Rat and the Novice Engineer, I think those are cards that you're fairly happy to be getting rid of. Because against the Mage, the value-generating cards aren't the ones you're really looking for. It's just the highest attack cards, turn after turn, that you're looking for. Buried Dragon on 2, SI7 Agent or Blink Fox on 3, Hench Clan Burglar on 4. Just playing those out on curve is, aside from Edwin Van Cleef going massive early on, pretty much the best thing you can do against Mage, and it gives you a really good shot of taking the game.
Yeah, Derek bringing the matchup all the way down to just top trumps where you get to pick attack value every turn to see who wins.
It's not that far off.
It's pretty reasonable, actually. Yeah. Especially when like, oh, the Mage is like, okay, you win this round, next round, next round. Giant, I win a round now, and it just continues.
Bigness, 57.
That's the thing. Oh, imagine top trumps where there's just one stat. Just keep going. It's just attack value. Attack value.
Mine's bigger.
Attack value.
That sounds like a terrible game.
I'm going to make it.
I mean, similar to Top Trumps, which as soon as you realise
it's also
when you hit 13, you realise, oh wait, this game's blooming awful. Why am I playing this?
Luckily, we don't hit that with Hearthstone, which is great. But the players have moved on to the decks that we did guess that they were going to. We are fairly reasonable at doing these things. We know a little bit about Hearthstone, but yes, there is just the secondary deck from Shaxi, which is the halftime scavengers. We talked about this yesterday as well, because there are multiple players such as Alutimu bringing this kind of sideboard to help versus aggro, and for me, it feels great because there are no cards I'm upset at losing if I'm Shaxi right now. Antonidas is difficult to get the time to make it work against Rogue, outside of exactly a Lunar Pocket Galaxy game. And Banana Buffoon, good card, but a 3-mana 2/2 gets out-tempoed like you would not believe in almost every circumstance. So -2 of those, plus 2 cards you can actually play. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, sounds fantastic to me as well. I think the sideboard I didn't like was, I believe it was from Glory yesterday, where he substituted out Luna's Pocket Galaxy and Luna against the Rogue. Sorry.
Dawn.
Sorry, Dawn. Yes, sorry, you are correct.
I was like, did you say last week or yesterday?
No,
I'm confused.
Yes. Dawn. Sorry. Yes, we're substituting out a little bit more of the core cards, I would argue, in Mage at the moment, because granted they are slow, and playing just the Luna's Pocket Galaxy on 5 often is too slow, but if you can find yourself the time to do it, it can be absolutely devastating, because then in situations like that, these cards that Surrender is substituting in get significantly worse, because if you're playing a Giant for 0 mana and they're having to pay 4 mana to kill it off, you win.
Yeah, and we can take a look at Surrender's deck now, and he's moving to his tertiary list, the one on the bottom right there. And honestly, like, yes, the Betrayal and Walk the Planks feel high impact, but really for me, just if a Fairy Dragon is drawn and played on 2, the game instantly looks a little bit shaky for Shaxi.
Yes, it's far from the powerhouse I think it once was, because when players were first substituting in Fairy Dragon into Rogue, mages were not prepared to deal with it. The playstyle had not evolved to the point where they were equipped with the tools to deal with it, I would argue, which is why it felt so dominant at the start. I think now that players are getting more and more coming to the realization of ways to deal with Fairy Dragon, I'm talking like Tempo Cyclone on 2 is something you should very much consider just to get rid of it, exactly. Just playing at Sorcerer's Apprentice, if it trades, it's not great, but it's reasonable, you're not falling too far behind.
It definitely gets scary because those are not guaranteed, though, which is the fear. If you do that and then Backstab comes down or an SI comes down, you are in massive, massive trouble.
Right, and that's what I mean. Fairy Dragon's still a good card, and I agree it deserves a spot in an anti-mage sideboard, but it's far from the auto-win card it once felt like.
So here we go. Game number 2 between Shaxi and Surrender. Shaxi on the top on the Mage, Surrender on the bottom on the Rogue. And Shaxi, if he wins this, has had... I don't want to use the phrase or the word easy, because doing what he has done is not easy, but smoothest I'll go for, actually. You understand what I mean? But
Yeah, well, I mean,
one of the smoothest runs through GM, right?
He makes it look easy, doesn't he?
Yes,
Even if it's not,
yeah.
he makes it look very easy.
He had a fantastic score throughout the season, and if he wins this match, he's just had to play one match and win it to go through to the semi-finals tomorrow, which is just as happy as you possibly want to be in any position in this Grandmasters.
He's like the kid at school that did his homework early, and you always think, oh, you've got it so easy. You don't have to do your homework now the day before. When you realize they've already done it, you're just an idiot, and you should have probably stopped playing so much Hearthstone when you should have been studying.
Yeah, so that was
not
me
speaking
apart
from personal experience.
That was me apart from the Hearthstone thing, because Hearthstone was not out when I was in school. But I used to wait till I think the day after it was due to get it done, which got me in plenty of trouble.
Excuse me, sir, I forgot it. Can I get it to you tomorrow? Classic.
Never did my homework on time. No, I honestly don't even think once. Maybe once. Maybe
Notice
once.
the complete lack of surprise.
Yeah.
That explains everything.
Well, why I became a very successful Hearthstone caster, I think that does.
Who still never does his homework until the day
Hey,
after.
that is not true.
I'm joking.
Don't throw me any shade about my Hearthstone homework. I get that stuff done every day. Let's go into this game. The Khadgar on 2, I think, again, is just...
Khadgar.
It's a weird-looking play, but I think it's such... It just shows the understanding and knowledge of how the matchup works and what cards are good and what cards are not good in specific matchups against specific decks.
Watching Shaxi play Mage is so weird, dude, because I feel like compared to Alutemu, like Alutemu plays, in my opinion, what is close to like the current idea of how you play Mage should be perfectly. Like
textbook.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he knows the current theory very, very well, and he executes it perfectly. I think Shaxi is either like 10 levels ahead or 10 levels behind, and I'm not entirely sure which one it is. Like, he's either playing some absolute god-tier Hearthstone with this Mage, or it's just kind of falling to pieces. And, I mean, it's working. As it currently stands, he's winning a lot of games of Hearthstone. Yeah. It's just weird to watch him play, man. He's like, I don't know, he's like Van Gogh or something. Like, the world is not ready for his style of Mage. As the world was not ready for Vincent van Gogh's Mana Cyclone Mage play.
Very similar things, obviously. I do like, though, well, I bet Shaxi does too, but the Banana Buffoon draw was very good because it's something we've talked a lot about. When you got the Pocket Galaxy in your hand and you have Arcane Intellect, you want to save those and go the opposite way around to normal.
I mean, look at how it worked out. The Tempo Khadgar baited out the backstab so that this minion will stick, and then next turn, Apprentice, double Banana Buffoon, smack him for, 4 damage, and the Cyclone. It's nuts. Curve into the Pocket Galaxy, then follow up with the draw.
And draw busted minions.
Oh.
But that's what I mean. And also, yes, it's worked out very well with the Banana Buffoon, right? That's just true. But understanding that Khadgar feels powerful when it gets its use, but in this matchup, you often don't get that value from Khadgar, whereas Apprentice can open up more doors for you. He's just good and not, yes, you could say, oh, well, obviously that's what happens. It's like, well, no, it's not obvious to many, many, many people that play Hearthstone. They would not necessarily value an Apprentice higher than Khadgar.
Absolutely. And also, I would say for, Shaxi there, I was somewhat tongue-in-cheek when I said that it baited out the backstab for the Banana Buffoon. What it did do is what I was exactly talking about with Tempo Cyclone, which is contest the Fairy Dragon. If Shaxi is able to trade Khadgar into Fairy Dragon, well, of course he's happy. That's why he did it. He made the play specifically to do that.
That Shaxi would be okay with happening.
Absolutely.
And if there's no Fairy Dragon, well, this happens. Great.
Yes. This is a kind of interesting choice. The best card generally here is definitely Frost Nova, I would say, and he does end up picking it. I like the hesitation, though, because when you have Luna's Pocket Galaxy in hand, your 2 cards that you're drawing, on average, are much, 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 much better than the 2 cards your opponent are drawing.
I'm also partial, in circumstances like that, to a bit of secrecy. I like the secret pick because it was Vape as well. I'm not saying it was always better than Nova, right? Nova's amazing. But because it's Vape, and at the moment it's very hard for Surrender to work out that it is Vaporize, then like the way Surrender has to play around that secret potentially would have been very, very awkward. Obviously, he went for the Mana Cyclone, which means he wasn't going to play it that turn anyway, and I think that's what changes the outcome. But I think sometimes picking a secret that your opponent can't easily proc messes with them a little bit. And I like it a lot. I actually like doing that. Maybe why I like Hunter in its some of its past incarnations.
I think, I don't know, it's a weird one, because if he was in like the Mage Mirror, I would value it more highly, because it's more difficult for Mage to activate the secrets without committing powerful stuff. Like, do they attack face with a Giant and then get it vaporized? Do they play a Giant to get it mirror entities? Do they play like Luna's Pocket Galaxy to get it counterspelled or something like that? But then again, against the Mage, Frost Nova is the Uber. So it was, I think, usually the Frost Nova then, no matter what. But I like the consideration for a research project.
And this turn for Surrender. Yeah, you might see a 1-mana Evil Miscreant and think, whoa, that's great. What Surrender had to do to make that happen was not great.
Yeah.
That was a whole turn to kill a minion and get a 1-mana Miscreant without actually summoning any lackeys. And now Surrender gets his breath turn, I would say, of just saying, Pocket Galaxy, not a great punish, because I'm not going to at least receive a ton of damage. And things start heating up. He has Sorcerer's Apprentice into Arcane Intellect, into Let's Watch the Fireworks.
I mean, it's weird you say that Pocket Galaxy wasn't the big punish for Surrender, because I agree, immediately it's not that bad. But he had answers to pretty much everything else. Like Giant coming down was just met with Walk the Plank, Minions coming down he could just have dealt with fairly easily.
Oh no, I meant the other way.
Oh, sorry.
I meant it was a great turn for Shaxi because he has breathing room to be able to play a Pocket Galaxy without receiving a lot of damage or pressure that turn.
I misunderstood.
Yeah, Pocket Galaxy into an empty board is glorious.
Nuts,
yes, yeah, that's exactly what you want for Mage. It's so good, isn't it? It's just like, oh, okay, so Pocket Galaxy 5 mana don't do much. Cool.
Yeah.
Draw a 0 mana 8/8 that you can then play another powerful card called Conjurer's Call in, not right now for Shaxi, of course, to make more big dudes. 3 mana for like 2 massive minions, and now there's weapon removal.
The ooze there is the uber nuts.
The oozer nuts.
Nice.
Thanks. Oh wow, it's a relatively large Van Cleef. Not this turn if he wants to go for the Walk the Plank, but it could be.
Well, this turn's insane, right? It could be double Kobold Lackey to take out the Giant, and then Witchy Lackey to get a...
Involve the Miscreant,
Involve the Miscreant for a 5-drop. I'm wondering if he'd ever play Edwin first and then get a 6-drop off of the Spirit of the Shark, because it's going to die anyway.
I thought you... What if you play Edwin first and then evolve it? I'd be like, wait, what? I'm glad you did not say that, because I would have questioned a few things there, Darren.
Yeah, you don't want to be vulnerable to silence, which could have been generated off the Astral Rift.
Oh, yeah, see this. This is really outside the box thinking.
Or I guess, he doesn't even have to go Witchy Lucky at all. The Rush.
I mean, a 5-drop's just not bad either.
Man, these Goblin Lackeys are so nuts. What? Yeah, sure, this is fine.
I think this is just the most steady turn, right? Like, 5-drop's probably just going to be pretty decent. Yeah, I think that's fine. Not great, but fine.
It doesn't lose. Yeah, at first I was wondering, like, oh god, does that just lose the game for Surrender? But no, it's fine.
Well, it could, right?
How?
If there's Conjurers on the Van Cleef.
Oh.
Like Conjurers double trade.
Yeah.
Even ping afterwards on the Shark. Like, that would be a bit scary.
Imagine if Shaxi had got the new rogue minion, Plague Bringer, that gives a minion poisonous and then given it to the Abomination. I think it might only be friendly minions, actually, but that would have been sick.
I would much prefer that card if it was not locked to friendly minions, just for the odd time plays like that happen. Nova coming in handy now, though.
It's pretty good. It's getting to the point where Shaxi could start to just ignore the board.
I think it's a very tiny thing there where he played the Discovered Nova and not the Raw Nova from his deck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Surrender now knows that the one... doesn't matter now, it's just generated about 18 other cards. But very small, but knowledge is power, isn't it? So just a tiny thing there. I think that second Nova is a one from his deck.
I couldn't actually see which one it was, but I trusted that it was the created one.
It was definitely the created one. And now, This is what I mean, right? And yes, Surrender had great removal, but there's 2 Walk the Planks and 2 Vendettas in his hand, and Surrender's still nearly dead. I don't understand, which is why I lean much more towards the Fairy Dragon being the stronger part of the sideboard. Because the problem is, Walk the Plank is so much mana.
Shaxi had that covered too, though.
Mage cheats, right?
Yes.
So, like, if Mage gets... Shaxi's upset about something here. Shaxi was just slapping himself. He was that upset. I must have missed what he's done wrong here. Did he want to play something that he didn't? I was looking at Surrender's hand a lot, so I wasn't fully focused on what Shaxi did or didn't do that turn. Maybe he wanted to play Spellbender somehow to soak up removal?
Yeah, possibly.
Anyway, what I was saying was that if Mage does Giant and gets Conjurers off, it's normally before turn 8.
Right.
Which, well, you can Walk the Plank one of them. You don't often have the ability to kill the second one. And then they just Conjurers again.
Yeah.
Which can make Walk the Plank very mediocre. And Surrender about to receive the bad news, and eyebrows raised. It's pretty much all you can do at this point, as the Van Cleef, the push, the chance at winning the game was just turned into a little sheep.
Giant Spellbender here. Obviously pretty... yeah.
Giant Spellbender.
Hello, my name's Giant Spellbender. You may remember me from such games as Shaxi vs. Surrender.
At least
I don't know why I said it like that.
Double Walk the Plank will clear the board.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Like, it seems from Shaxi's position like this should protect him, but it won't. We can even see Surrender go for the Shadow Step first if he wants to bounce back a 1-3 to his hand.
Yep. I like the whole test for a secret, lean back, go, okay, so it's not that, it's not this.
Yeah.
So it's not Barrier and Vape, he knows.
Yes.
If he plays Shadow Step, the problem with the Shadow Step is it tests for Counterspell, but it uses the Shadow Step, which is a little bit scary.
I think it's fine. I think the other cards in his hand are just more valuable, right? Like the more Walk the Planks he has, the better.
Yeah, I'm just thinking can a Shadow Step have a more chance of him winning the game depending on his draws in the next couple of turns?
It's fair. I think all the cards that are good with Shadow Step are like good enough on their own already just to get the one activation of the Battle Cry or combo. But I agree, it's not perfect. Like, you'd rather the secret isn't there.
This does mean that because he's cleared this off, Surrender just has a spot answer to another Giant on curve.
Yeah.
Research. There's a Giant.
Yeah, that's what
it's Luna's Pocket Galaxy. Yeah, Surrender. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I'm with you on this. I felt that as if I was playing this game right now because draw into double Sea Giant. For a second, I was like, well, it will be on curve because I thought it would be 7 mana. And then I realized Pocket Galaxy has been played.
You've got to feel for Surrender here, especially as Shaxi, you know. When he played out the Giant last turn, obviously it had Spellbender as well, so I think it was reasonable to assume that it would be protected for a turn. It was far from guaranteed though, and he had a Research Project in hand and a Giant. He could have saved it to go Giant double Conjurer's Calling on the following turn. He just drew 2 Sea Giants off the top anyway though, which is really unlucky for Surrender, it's got to be said.
And I will say as well, I do like Shaxi's restraint of just going Sea Giant Conjurers. If things happen, Sea Giant Conjurers, Nova.
Yes.
You know, and like that
He never
almost
dies,
always wins the game.
Yes.
I think in 99% of outcomes, that this play over 2 turns basically win the game.
Yes.
And I think if he went all in and then Surrender discovers a Nova and piles on some damage, like Shaxi could lose. But I think with this, it gives him much more leeway to be able to just present more threats in a steadier fashion. And it just shows nice restraint when so far ahead in the game anyway, you 1-0 up in the series, and you still just say, no, this is the correct play.
Yes.
You know, I think it shows a very powerful level of restraint that I definitely would not have. I would have gone, haha,
Just
2 Sea
vomit onto
Giants!
the board.
Boom, 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 boom. Like, I would have thrown it all down and laughed and then cried when I died.
The Donkey Kong style of play was simple but ineffective. Oh my god. Shaxi. That was the best possible top deck there for Shaxi as well. I mean, he'd won anyway, but Luna with Luna's Pocket Galaxy is like, what a combo.
It's just like
It's like chocolate and bread.
Well, mean, close your eyes and pick a card, Shaxi. It doesn't really matter at this point. Pick a card, any card. They're all fantastic.
Okay, mirror image isn't perfect because he's running
Isn't
out
it?
of board space. It's pretty perfect.
It's like, come on.
He's getting maged, to be honest.
Can he? He could.
If he gets a mech, he won't have board space to mech and
Yeah.
Tesla.
No, I was thinking whether he can get rid of this 0-3 somehow with like Icicle in his 0-3 or something. Icicle ping.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I'm just talking gibberish now. To be honest.
Yeah, actually, he could have gone Icicle one of his minions and then Ziliax to heal for 1 billion. But this wins 100% of the time anyway.
Heal for a
Unless...
Biliax?
Yes, he would have healed for a Biliax.
Oh no. Is this sap good enough?
Can he go Evis?
The scariest
Prep
part
Evis his
is
own minion, Toki into...
that one mana Sir Finley Murgle turn to save the day. And because it's not been announced yet, who knows how powerful that card is. Maybe it just transforms into the new version.
Baby Godfrey.
Yeah, and that is going to be the I give up. Shaxi takes his winners match 2-0, and that means he is making it through to the semi-finals tomorrow. Like I said, in the most comfortable fashion. Shaxi not only won Division B, which is why he got the bye in this group stage, he then just 2-0s his match and can go and chill till tomorrow.
We've been seeing this quite a lot across all the regions. Fino winning his game in Europe, I believe Frozen winning his game in Europe as the top seed in their groups yesterday. A little bit different for us in Asia Pacific with Staz absolutely stomping his division. Ali Temu did, however, manage to get through. So as it currently stands, we're...
Division winners seem
Division winners are doing very, very well indeed, as it does seem it's going to come down to a rematch for Surrender versus Tyler. The ability for Tyler to get his own back and qualify through to the semi-finals tomorrow.
Yeah, and something to note as well, which might... I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your mindset of being warmed up or overworked, is that Surrender's just played, or going to play 3 back-to-back matches in this one playoff day, when for the last few weeks, the players have been playing 1 match a day, twice a week for everything. Now it's Surrender, boom, 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 3 matches back-to-back, which, again, depending on the player's personal mindset, whether like, oh, I'm great grinding Hearthstone matches, it's what we do, or whether it's just, oh, I've just finished this match, in 5 minutes maybe, I've got to go into another match, and in 5 minutes I've lost that match, I've got to go to another match and see how it goes. But Surrender is a veteran of the Hearthstone scene, and I think has played at least as much, if not more, than even Tyler going against him now. So
a tall order.
It is a tall order. So next up, we've got the last match of the day, which is going to decide who gets knocked out and who carries on into the semi-finals tomorrow. It's going to be a rematch from match number 1. It's Surrender versus Tyler. We're going to set that match up. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
Again, darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. There's surely scorching deserts, and there's sure much better narcissism. How they speak annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave. Evil's come to enslave, but this league's gonna save.
What's up, Hearthstone fans? Welcome back to another episode of The Curve, where we draw the biggest headlines from this past weekend of Grandmasters. I'm your host, Nathan That's Admirable Zamora. Let's do this. All 3 regions have completed the double round-robin stage of the inaugural season of Hearthstone Grandmasters. After 7 intense weeks of play, 3 players out of each division are now moving on to the playoffs this weekend. Group A will play on Friday, which means Group B will play on Saturday, and the 2 winners from each group will face off in a single elimination tournament. The winner of each region's playoffs will then obtain a spot at the global finals this year at BlizzCon. The top 3 players from Asia Pacific who made the playoffs from Division A are Alutemo, Surrender, and Staz. In Division B, it's Shaxi, Dawn, and Tyler. The big story coming out of Asia Pacific, though, was Staz. Before the Masters Tour in Las Vegas, Staz was 2-6. He was not a top contender in the region, and his playoff chances looked slim. When Grandmasters returned in Week 5, though, Staz went on a tear. He went undefeated for the rest of the season and made claim to the last remaining playoff spot. For the European playoffs, Phenomeno, Colento, and Bunny Hopper made it out of Division A, with Hunter Ace, Psycho, and Orange securing their spots from Division B. Hunter Ace found his footing about midway through the season and is now on a 7-match win streak. In his last 16 games, he's lost just 2 of them. This weekend, we'll find out if our reigning world champion can make it through the playoff gauntlet and defend his title at BlizzCon. Going into this week, most of the playoff spots were already claimed in the Americas region. Frozen and Eddie were locked in Division A. Dog and Monsanto had clinched their spots in Division B. There was a possibility of a 4-way tie in Division A, but it was quickly settled when PNC defeated Eddie and claimed that 3rd spot. In Division B, Purple and Raze were the only 2 players who could make it, and they had to play each other to decide that final spot. In a classic Warrior Mirror, Game 1 went the actual distance to create the first tie in Grandmasters play, granting both players a win. And so we go straight to Game 3, which ended unfortunately for Raze, awarding Purple the last remaining spot. In this week's meta moment, we want to highlight Control Warrior. In terms of popularity, Warrior has become a staple in the current metagame. The deck is known for its highly defensive tactics and its ability to weather boards of all shapes and sizes. The Control variant of the class does seem a little slow and reactive, but there's a lot more in that than meets the eye. Players who play the deck are in a constant tug of war with themselves, weighing the pros and cons of every situation. And while it may seem a little bit slow for the viewers, it's definitely a fun deck to play and cast. For me, at least. If you missed any of the Grandmasters action, you can always check out the VODs on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Hearthstone Esports. Grandmasters resumes this weekend with playoffs, so don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's it for us. We'll see you in the tavern.
Surrender versus Tyler coming right up for the 2nd time today out of 3 matches. This is just a lot of Surrender and Tyler we've got cooking on today. It's going to be a Rogue Mirror once again, same decks. Everything's the same as the previous, or first match of the day, should I say, except that the loser of this is done for the season. They are out.
That is correct. It all comes down to this for both of these players, what they've all been fighting for throughout Grandmasters. And, you know, as I've said, it kind of feels like Grandmasters is as good as it gets already because it's playing week after week against the best players in the world at the absolute peak of competitive Hearthstone for this year. But it gets even better, qualifying through to the global finals later on this year to become our Hearthstone world champion would be a feat that all of these players would aspire to.
Yeah, and also, you know, we can take a look at the deck list as well. We'll get them chucked up whenever. It's Rogue, we've seen it.
It's chucked up.
Yeah, that's a good job. But for me, in terms of Grandmasters, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because all these players, just for this season, are auto through to Season 2.
Yes.
So next season, these players are back. They do more or less the same thing again in terms of, yes, it's multiple weeks of competition and so on, to get another spot into global finals, to get 2 from each region.
Yeah.
But if you can do it first time, or second time, I believe there are relegations on the line.
Yeah.
So if you can do it first time, you get a little bit more relaxed for Season 2, and then you can just, you know, work on getting wins. Because most importantly as well, these players are not only playing for a spot in the global finals, which is of course priority number 1, but when they play week in, week out, they earn a prize money for winning matches of Hearthstone every week. So there is still plenty of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Incentive.
Perfect. For playing every single week and performing as well as possible. So even if the players that get a spot this weekend will mean that, well, next season they just do everything they can to try and get wins, as opposed to, you know, maybe they can play a little bit more risky to try and get some more wins, as opposed to saying, what's the safest thing to just give myself, you know, a reasonable outcome. They can just keep focusing for Season 2 and then really work on getting ready for those global finals. But that is another story for another time. For now, we've got Tyler versus Surrender for the 2nd time today. Last match of the day, Rogue Mirror.
And this really has been, when you factor in the last series as well, a tale of two Edwins for these players. I think we've seen Edwin on the coin like pretty much every time. It truly
It's true,
was.
actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it every time?
It truly is the best of cards. And my God, is it the worst of cards?
I do appreciate, and I'm sure you will too, as a reasonable level memer, the
Apprentice.
the Van Cleef dodging nerfs and rotations and images I've seen are pretty funny.
There are some very good
They've cracked me up a little bit until I go on ladder and get destroyed by like a turn 2 or turn 3 Van Cleef. And then I'm like, yeah, maybe something needs to happen here.
That classic Neville's picture. Dodged another one. Lol.
I miss Neville's.
Yeah. At the same time, I think I'm a little bit too old for him now. I don't think I could handle it.
It was definitely the earlier part of Hearthstone streams. My Hearthstone stream life cycle.
Formative years.
And then we are where we are because of Neville's.
Interestingly enough now, for Surrender, he has the ability to go for the exact same curve he went for in Game 1 of the first series of the day. Coin Miscreant, Snip Snap, Shark, Double Lackey, Edwin. He did not win that game when he went for it last time. I will be super curious to see if anything changes for him this time, because I don't think there's anything different between these two games so far. Tyler's had the same turn, I think, unless I'm remembering correctly.
So what would you like Surrender to do?
I think I'd like it to still see Coin Miscreant. The pickup of Shadow Step does actually change things a little bit. But yeah, I think that this from Surrender, you know, it shows belief in his own gameplay, right? Because he's going for the play that he believes to be the best one, and he will not be shaken by
it not working.
It not working the first time. Exactly. It's on average the best thing he can do. And you know, the Shadow Step does shake things up as well, because it means, you know, we could see next turn Step the Miscreant and then just an Edwin, although that doesn't seem particularly powerful.
What about a Snip Snap this turn? And then
it's the exact same as the first time around.
Because then suddenly, though, with the Shadow Step, there can be Witchy Lackey, Shadow Step, Witchy Lackey into Van Cleef, which I think would make a pretty reasonable sized board.
This is like an endgame where we get to see the same situation play out again from a different perspective.
Haven't seen it.
Oh yeah, you haven't seen Endgame.
Thanks for.
Oh, sorry.
Hashtag spoiler alert.
Outing you.
Apologies. Should I make a tweet now? In half an hour's time, Derek will spoil a part of Endgame. Do not watch as Twitch chat catches up.
I'm allowed to as well.
I mean,
that was the lightest of spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, you don't care.
Well, it kind of spoils itself though, because doesn't Strange allude to that anyway?
Well,
he sits there and sees like tons of outcomes. But
he doesn't allude that they're going to go back in time.
See, I didn't know that either. Now you've made it worse.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just not going to bother watching it now.
It's not
Derek,
my fault.
Continue with
How
that story.
How can you not have seen it by now? Sorry.
I've been busy. Right?
Yes, and so also similarly to Endgame, Thanos gets killed by a herd of rhino. That also definitely happens, and I'm throwing around smoke so that you'll know.
I've really been sold on this rhino. No, though, Tyler's just in that rough spot in this matchup where you feel like no matter what you do, you're behind. And you're probably going to stay behind. I would like the double Lackey play, the Lackey Shadow Step play, though.
Really?
You make a 5-drop, and you have a reasonably large Van Cleef.
It's true, it's pretty good on this turn. So what's the difference of... you can't clear off the Hench Clan
Go face.
Burglar, though, then. Which is not a huge deal, to be fair. But if we were to see... Like, it's the same situation, right? If we were to see Shark this turn, it's still a very powerful turn next turn with double Lackey, probably with a step thrown in there as well. But what it also means is that if the Edwin comes down and they don't have sap, you win on the spot.
Right.
Whether or not that's worth it.
Wow, Vendetta coming out. I didn't really see that one coming. I feel like for me, because of the... I don't know. Because Tyler's plays quite slow, I feel like you should take advantage of that and not play a turn that's as slow as Shark. So I don't mind this Vendetta. I would put this Vendetta number 2, Shark number 3, and my play number 1 because I said it. But yeah, I feel like there was a chance to get a big Van Cleef, a 5-drop, and the Snip Snap on the board versus 1-4-3. You're not as weak to sap, probably based on what the 5-drop would be, I guess.
Yeah.
And you can keep cooking afterwards because you still have another Witchy Lackey, you still have stuff for Togwaggle later on, and you still have a Shark for the Shark into Witchy Lackey potentially the turn after. But anyway, it's not what Surrender did. We can't endgame it and go back in time, spell number 3. And Tyler is going to continue fighting back and evening up the board to some extent.
So many options available now to Surrender. He's seeing
the lines.
14 million and 6 different outcomes available here. And only one wins him the game.
Surrender Strange.
I wonder.
Either way, I think it's hard not to Shadow Step a Lackey and keep hold of it this turn. Are you with me?
I see your
point. It just feels
so
good to be able to just like the Lackey Evolve is probably just going to be fine this turn with the way the board. You can get a trade with the Miscreant, evolve it, and then you just have High Sparrow, Togwaggle, and a Lackey next turn. It just feels good.
Right. So what Surrender's going for here, it looks like with the Spirit of the Shark, is you take the value trade obviously with the Miscreant. You evolve it with the Witchy Lackey, and then probably step it again to set up for a double treasure on High Sparrow next turn.
Get behind that.
In the end, he decides High Sparrow next turn is not the most powerful thing he can do.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
Okay.
This is so interesting, man. There's so many different ways this could be taken.
So to me, this looks like a turn he could have done a turn earlier. This is roughly what his board would have looked like if he made the turn on the previous one, right?
It would have been a smaller Edwin, right?
Only by 1, though.
And there would have still been a 4-3 in play on the other side.
So many.
Because he wouldn't have played the Vendetta, so there still would have been a Henge
There
Clan Burglar.
would, but you would have had a 5-drop, not a 4-drop.
Yes.
If you replayed the Lackey.
That's fair, yeah.
So it's just interesting, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah.
I just think it's very interesting.
The thing is, an average 5-drop, I think, will probably trade against a Henge Clan Burglar and a Dagger, right? Which puts you in a much worse position than would have happened here. Obviously, you get it a turn earlier, which, of course, is going to be weaker. It's less mana that you're spending on it.
Yeah, just very interesting. I think
Very
like
interesting.
The routes both players have had here. I think Tyler's had a bit more of a simpler game because he's on the back foot and he just has to do the stuff to try and not make him fall too far behind. But Surrender's had so many choices.
Yeah, and I think from Surrender, the cornerstone of his thinking here is whether or not he wants to set up for High Sparrow and Togwaggle next turn. And I think not setting up for a 0-mana Lackey into Togwaggle on turn 6 is probably correct, actually. Having looked at it, I like it a bit more because the board's too tumultuous at the moment. There's so much stuff flying around. Tyler's going wide on the board. You're trying to go wide on the board. And I think setting up for a later Togwaggle after you've the dust has settled a little bit to refill that value is very valuable.
Also as well, Togwaggle from 9 onwards is great if you have the 0-mana Lackey or Lackey on the board because Wand is playable right there, right then.
Yeah.
So you can have a slow tempo play, which is the Togwaggle, 6-mana 5/5, and then the Recovery, which is 3 cards that cost 0 mana from your deck in the same turn. So it's not like Togwaggle on curve is even powerful. I think it's strong, but it's not the strongest Togwaggle can be.
And I think it's something you definitely have to consider it because, the follow-up turn with Wand can be so disgusting. But I agree, Shark into these kind of turns with Lackeys, arguably even just more powerful.
And now there's trades and you can make, Surrender can make the 5-drop a 1-drop, the 4-drop a 5-drop. Let me
make it a 6-drop.
Oh, sorry, yeah, with the Shark.
And I like that.
This is nice, yeah. Average 6-drop actually gets a taunt often. Oh, evolved my opponent into a different class. That's cool.
They become mage, and you're like, wait, what?
Oh, Togwaggle. You're like, wait, is there
Excuse me?
No.
Adjudicator?
Now Tyler has his Tog. Does his Tog ever do enough to catch him up in the game if he has a slow turn this turn?
I see your Tog and raise you a waggle.
You pick.
So many options.
don't know. These turns are hard, aren't
These
they?
turns are so hard, man.
Because
Rogue's
Tyler has... There's Ziliax
Okay,
into
so
stuff.
what's Tyler's win condition at the moment? Does he have to... Is it fight for board immediately or like start going first?
That's what I don't actually know. Because can Tyler afford to take this much damage if he plays Tog this turn?
Right. Which is what leads me to think maybe we will see something like SI7 agent on this turn. However, he's thinking, I'm going to tank this damage and then follow up with a powerhouse play with Togwaggle on the following turn. Because I've got to remember, Surrender does not have a treasure in hand despite having a Togwaggle in play. He can get one on this turn should he so desire.
Does use his whole turn though.
It's still pretty good though, right? He gets two treasures,
just
two
one
drops.
wand. You just get 1/1 next turn, 6/0 mana cards.
Did you go 1 wand? I guess you probably would
6/0 mana cards and then 2 mana spare.
So many
Yeah,
options.
I think 1 seems very valid.
But I'm going to raise you another question.
Please do.
You know that waggle pick thing?
Yes.
Hit them in the face with it.
Don't think I like that quite so much. I think that's where things go wrong with like Life Drinker and Ziliax, right? I think, Surrender should probably realize in terms of value, he's so far in the lead.
What are the odds? I'm going to say low.
That if he plays defensive, Surrender is in a good position.
You know the doctor jokes? I like the way the mech is the doctor in this scenario with the Togs and the other minions as the bombs. It's just funny positioning wise. It's a little bit weird, but I just like the way the worst minion by far is the one in the middle, normally taking Dr. Boom's spot. Now Sap just not going to do too much here. It's all about the wand.
It's one time.
Did anyone order some value? Got some value here for someone? Anyone?
To quote Harry Potter before his final battle with Voldemort, it's one time.
I wish that was a line. Imagine. Especially because the books get progressively darker and more serious as they go on throughout the series. And then at the very
Harry,
end...
what are you doing? Trying a new thing. One-liners. It was classic Harry.
One-liners.
Hey.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Maybe we should do a rewrite.
Harry Potter, but rubbish.
In every way.
Yeah. And Tyler, I think, he's coming to the very correct conclusion here that he does have to wrestle back the board. He has to wrestle back the value in order to be winning this game. Neither player has the liberty to just go all face quite yet.
Yeah, that may change very, 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 very quickly, though, as
Yes.
Surrender can dual-wield wands right now. Oh, that's a nice one. Well, let's draw 6 cards. Maybe?
Let's start with
sometimes he gets the pick this turn instead.
Yeah, let's see.
Why they wanted the same cards?
That's insane.
Oh, I love it. Again.
Pew, pew.
It's double one time. It's like, no, we stopped doing that, Surrender. We decided it was bad after the first time. I mean, this is where the game gets even harder, because now there's too much choice. It's like going to an ice cream shop and there's more than like 3 flavors. You just don't even know what to do.
Why can't we just have ice cream, vanilla, and chocolate? What happened? Wait, strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate.
Yeah, ice cream, vanilla, and
ice
chocolate.
Ice cream. Mmm.
All I heard was ice cream, vanilla ice, and chocolate.
Why can't I just have vanilla ice?
Is Frostbolt just good as damage right now?
I think picking the cheapest option is very valid there. Like Frostbolt or Moonfire were the only options you'd ever consider there.
Surrender discovered some kind of weird Exodia where it's like, if your hand is full but costs 0, the game breaks and you win.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what happens because Wand is just so disgustingly powerful.
What did he sap? Okay, spell circle.
He's is fine. Because, I mean, this is just spending
Oh,
cards.
yeah,
right?
I
Like,
was generally just wondering
throw
what he,
stuff on the
yeah,
board,
generally just wondering what he aimed at, that's all.
Because Serenda's just getting so far ahead on board at this position. He has so much follow-up as well. That I think, you know, just expending everything he can in one massive push to try and set up potentially lethal next turn is very valid.
Because Rogue doesn't deal with a wide board of multi-health
does
minions,
not, yeah.
right?
It's a big weakness.
Outside of Fan of Knives, it doesn't really do anything.
No mechs available for Tyler to magnetize the Ziliax onto, and on its own for 5 mana. I don't know, I'm becoming spoiled here. Like, I'm thinking 5 mana for a Ziliax. That's insane. One of the best cards in the game.
Yeah, too expensive. Need to bring that price right down.
I think it's 0 mana.
I do like the Waggle Pick this turn. Because Waggle Pick, I feel, is the card that can dig you out of situations. Either by doing so much damage, or by generating value that's kind of cheating.
It's the card that does silly things.
Yes.
Like preloading a free Shadow Step. It can obviously be detrimental at times, but it can be the most powerful thing your deck can do at times as well. And it does stop the lethal very handily for Surrender for the moment.
Do it.
Yeah, okay, I take that back. I mean, I guess it's not lethal right now, but it's getting there.
Can he set up lethal? I guess not through Life Drinker. Like, could he just Leroy this turn, swing the weapons, hit him, put him
very possible.
Put him as close as possible, and then just Pyro next turn for lethal.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to be afraid. Like, there's no more sustained healing with the Ziliax being gone, but there's Life Drinkers, and there's the randomly generated card off of Henge Clan Burglar, which is unlikely to be healing. In this case, it is though. Weapons Project is the ability for Tyler to get that little bit extra out of range. Oh, he can Shadow Step the Mana Cyclone. Is that even good?
I don't know. I want to find out though. I want to go on this ride.
It's not bad. He could go Mark of the Wild, step the Cyclone, play it again.
Deadly Poison as well now.
He could go double step. I think he's running out of time. And I guess, you know, stepping the Leroy is probably just better. Blah, blah.
Better starts with the same letter as boring.
It's nice to get a good insight as to how your brain works.
Yes. Welcome to how I cast Hearthstone. This Miscreant is actually... That's a good card on Miscreant, isn't it? Mark of the Wild. Wow. Just a 3/6 taunt that gave you 2 lackeys. Oof.
Strictly better Silverback Patriarch, one might say. And for Tyler now, he obviously is pretty much all out of the board control route unless a miracle occurs. So the plan when that happens as Rogue is generally push everything you can directly to the dome and pray that it gets there. Don't think that's going to work either, though.
Does he have to sap the Miscreant? I think he does, right?
Sap the Miscreant. I mean, you can then Waggle Pick the Miscreant back to his hand.
What about sap the Miscreant, Shark, face, Life Drinker. Oh, Life Drinker first, face, and then go like that. And try and bounce Life Drinkers here.
I mean, he's going for something similar here, I suppose.
You can sap last if you want. Oh, okay, so I gotta swing this turn. Maybe wait for next turn.
Yeah,
Is he just dead?
He's just dead.
He's quite dead.
Pretty much any damage at all there. Won that one for Surrender.
Yeah,
Waggle Pick, Leroy, Deadly Poison, whatever he wants to go for there. Surrender is able to get the first win on the table. Tyler now 1 game away from going 0-2 in the playoffs of Hearthstone Grandmasters Season 1. Surrender, however, 1 game away from qualifying through to the semi-finals. Comes down to this.
It does, and it's going to be pretty rough for these players as well because Surrender had his chance versus Shaxi, which was, Shaxi was on Mage for the match 2 of the day, and he lost. So both these players are just heavily reliant on these Rogue mirrors, not only in their first match of the day, but in the last match of the day. And if, you know, for either player here, if Surrender loses, it could feel bad because he actually beat Tyler initially today. And if Tyler loses, then he's gone 0-2 to Surrender in the same day to lose out at playoffs, which feels just as bad. So a lot on the line, and you know, if I had my way, everyone would be involved in, you know, in the global finals. We'd go, you know what? Let's just ship out all the players, and we'll have another large tournament on the weekend. But only one of them is going to be able to survive into tomorrow.
That's right, and I think Surrender at the moment is playing deservedly of a qualifier through to the global finals at BlizzCon. I think his rogue play there was extremely difficult. Those turns, like turn 4, turn 5 in particular, where he just played the Vendetta for 4 mana and things like that, were really tough. But I think what it comes down to is great recognition of where he was in the game, because it was clearly a value game, at least in the mid game, or less a face game and a board control. It was like half board control, half value, it's fair to say.
It was towing the line, wasn't it? It was like not going too
Getting
far
the
one
balance.
way or the other.
Exactly. And I think he had really good recognition of that, because he could have set up, as we said, for a turn 6 Togwaggle, which would have been reasonable, right? But on the turn he played it, it wouldn't have been that powerful. And I think what he realized is that the way the wind was blowing was that 2 wands was actually just going to be not so powerful, because he needed to go for some kind of a strong swing to get it into his favor. And I think Togwaggle, while the Shark was in play, was exactly that. I think it was pretty inspired, because if it had just been wand on 6, it could have been the case that he falls behind in value to Tyler. And obviously, as soon as you run out of cards to play, you lose board control, you lose the game. Things spiral out of control. So I think Surrender was able to do a fantastic job, looking back on the game in retrospect, of keeping board control, not falling too far behind, but keeping the avenues open for large amounts of value later on as well.
Yeah, and both players are sticking on the primary deck, just to let you guys know, not too much of a surprise. But yeah, I agree, and I think it's also maybe undervalued a little bit, but maybe understood more by, say, the average Hearthstone player instead of the pro Hearthstone player.
Yeah.
But not falling for the plays that on average are good, right? Like Tog on curve or Tog even faster is a good play in the right situation. But in general, if you did that every game, you probably come out on top overall. But the second you do that in a game like this, it could lose you the game. And I think just keeping a level head and not tripping over and going for those like flashy, on paper good plays, it's actually quite hard to do, I think, and something that I think a lot of these players excel at.
Speaking of the kind of dichotomy between flashy powerhouse plays and just decent curves, Tyler has that exact quandary presented to him right here. We could see, I would argue, a full mull. Neither of these cards are Edwin or the Evil Miscreant, which are the cards you're absolutely looking for. At the same time, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop. Shadow Step is good with all of these cards as well. It's a reasonable curve.
You know, the deck is very interesting when you can either full mulligan or full keep.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll say
debatable.
Correct. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like both, and neither strictly good or strictly bad.
Yeah.
And that is just a weird Hearthstone deck. Probably a powerful Hearthstone deck.
Yeah.
And definitely an interesting one. Because the game just also plays out differently if you keep this hand versus throw it away.
Yeah.
And not just because you have different cards, but the style of the game can often be just so different. And it looks like Tyler went for the I want to play things on curve plan.
Very valid, you know. In the rogue matchup, it often feels like more of a slower value matchup, a little bit more like the sort of last game, or at least board fighting for board control. But it can often just feel like play your stuff on curve, hit them, and go for a more aggro game plan.
Well.
Yeah. This is pretty good for Tyler.
Look at Surrender's face. It's like...
this never ends well.
No.
Because
Zap.
Probably wouldn't even do that for Miscreant, right? Like, if Tyler had Miscreant, he would have just coined it out. This is pretty much always an Edwin you're expecting to see here. Oh, wow. We could see Tyler go all the way in here.
What, coin shark?
Well, I mean...
you want to backstab the... I was wondering whether you go coin shark and then go really deep next turn. Because that Edwin becomes unkillable. Like, actually just unkillable. It has to be sapped or you win the game. Whereas... how big would this one get if he went...
Well, he could go Witchy Lackey.
Could go to 8.
Cable Rat Lackey, backstab one of his minions. And then...
so he could go past 8,
go
right?
8, yeah.
If you can go past 8, then it's worth doing now. 3-3. It's not so bad stats.
Yeah, you feel for Surrender. It kind of feels like it's just been gold.
I don't know, because it only went to 8. I think I would have gone with the shark.
What kills it off at 8 though? Like double Vendetta? Are you playing around exactly Henge Clan Burglar plus 2 Vendettas? Because if he doesn't have exactly that combination of cards, backstab here is great. Or it will be good at some future point. Like it can kill off a Ziliax, it can do all kinds of stuff. Earthshock's pretty sweet though. Rogue giveth and rogue taketh away.
Oh my.
I mean, it's still a turn off from being playable, so Surrender's going to have to take a beating in the meanwhile.
It is, but any card that meant Surrender did just lose is a fantastic card for Surrender right now. Because if he did not get something that turn, or drew exactly Sap next turn, I guess, then there would be problems. He does have Ziliax and Backstab next turn. Just something to bear in mind. So his ability to stabilize is pretty solid right now. He obviously takes a lot of damage.
Second Backstab there is kind of interesting. It plays around Backstab from Tyler's side of the board because Tyler is quite obviously going to want to play some kind of a 4 or 3 cost minion rather than a just Dagger and Backstab to take it out. So I guess I actually like it.
Yeah, I think I like it because you also, well, you're not backstabbing the Van Cleef.
Right, exactly,
So,
yeah, I like this.
May as well kill another minion.
So many options.
Options for Tyler: Redemption, Might, and Zap.
Zap can just take this out right now with Backstab Zap.
Yeah. I don't see why not.
I like it, yeah. That's the scariest minion he can face right now. Because obviously, Surrender knows there's the Earthshock. From where Tyler's sat, I think he knows that Surrender is setting up for trade plus Ziliax and attack, or Vendetta Eviscerate. Exactly, something like that.
Ooh. Nice.
Yeah, you'll love to see that.
So now, I guess the question is, does Surrender just play both? Gonna Earthshock, trade, Eviscerate, and just say, my turn is slow, but it is good? Or can he Earthshock, trade, and then plays Hench Clan and Burglar? Not necessarily in that order, of course. Because
it's
in
kind of close.
He takes more damage, guaranteed, if he doesn't Evis.
But he has a lot of healing. I think I actually prefer just playing out the Hench Clan Burglar. Like he'd like to go for the Ziliax to take out the Hench Clan Burglar, but I think the majority of the minions that Tyler can play in the next few turns are weak to Ziliax anyway.
Yeah, in Rogue,
yes,
almost every minion.
It's all 3 health, yeah. And so I think because Surrender has a very reasonable amount of healing, taking the extra 4 for a turn to get the Hench Clan Burglar in play is, I think, worth it.
I guess he's going to resist then, because he would have burglared first. He has to re-dagger this way?
Yeah. And, it means that the Hench Clan Burglar can't just be traded off into, so if Tyler has a weak turn here, there's a chance that this Burglar could just stick.
Well, he kind of does.
Wow. That Torque Waggle is a very, very strong pickup. What do you know?
It is, but it's a little bit slow. Just a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Many options.
Gonna preload the shark. Pass. Ooh, that's a good pickup. Means you can just play Hench Clan Cable, right? Or vice versa.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Keep the Shadow Step for Ziliax or the Life Drinker, whatever's more relevant at the time, and generate some good value. He plays 2 cards to make 2 cards.
Yeah.
Like, sign me up for that.
I guess he can see what he gets off the Cable Rat and the Hench Clan Burglar. Like, if he gets absolute nothing, then he can step on either of them, I guess, but he probably wouldn't want to do that.
Often doesn't happen. Yeah. Ooh. Wing Blast?
Probably Wing Blast.
I love me some Rebuke, but I think Wing Blast is just better most of the time.
I think Rogue is a little bit too light on spells at the moment. Like, I'm thinking back to the old Miracle Rogue days where Rebuke would just be nuts against the Rogue. Gesundheit. Beacon Lightning could take out a board full of lackeys as well, but Surrender's already seen a fair bit of that. Wing Blast, I think, is just the highest combo card.
And just as much with boards full of lackeys, it's very easy to trade minions off to proc
Good
Blast.
Right, Tyler's got the shark in play. How does he capitalize on that? Forest Sage, probably too slow. Like, it's obviously a tremendous amount of value, but the things he can do for 8 mana and then 8 mana again, probably just better than Forest Sage.
Another tough one.
This is another tough one. Probably Mortal Strike, yeah, just to go face. It can even get over the top of Ziliax's or something like that. But, you know, if you had a Waggle pick, upgrade nuts on Waggle pick. Or even just the dagger. It's not bad.
It's super weird this turn for Tyler, isn't it? Because he probably wouldn't mind a 6-drop, but he just can't.
Oh, no, yeah, he has to say that. It's going to be a great turn for Surrender, though, being able to, wow, take out the Spirit of the Shark, Wing Blast away the Henge Clan Burglar, and then just go super wide on board. We could just see Miscreant, step it, play it again, a bunch of lackeys. This is the dream.
Yeah, it seems pretty solid as, from where I'm sitting.
So
And this could be the swing that Surrender needs. Yes, Tyler's got a lot of damage, but if Surrender has the board...
He gets the 1-2 shot that does literally nothing. it purely takes up board space. That is
better
the
than
worst
Doomsayer.
outcome.
Can be targeted with Evolve too.
Yes, it's better than Doomsayer, just about. Yeah, unfortunately, your hero power cannot target adjacent minions as Rogue.
Just give you hero power sweeping strikes. Oh.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sick.
choose soon.
How good, right, would it be if your hero power... So, okay, your weapon had sweeping strikes, but you took the damage from each minion you hit. Would that be good?
Probably not. Maybe. I'm terrible at evaluating cards.
Now, though, Surrender's kind of closed the gap in terms of health difference with the help of Ziliax. We can see that there's Life Drink a Shadow Step, so Tyler even piecing together this damage in from hand burst damage, it's going to be at least reasonably negated by Surrender's options. Surrender doesn't even have to Life Drink a Shadow Step, but if Surrender gets like a whiff of Tyler going aggro, he can just go, okay, Life Drink a Shadow Step, Life Drinker, and that's already negates like, what, 1.5 damage cards from Tyler? It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it is. This play from Surrender is still kind of interesting. Like, holding on to the Wing Blast is very valid. It's kind of reminiscent of playing against Mage, where you hold on to the Vendettas specifically to deal with Giants, because that can be very, very important. So, like, holding on to Wing Blast to deal with Heist Baron Togwaggle, for example, or a big minion off of Crown, maybe, later on, has its merits.
I like this point.
But, no, please. But I think the Wing Blast into Miscreant there had its merits just to go super wide on board.
It did. Oh, wow. Okay. So either way, excuse me as I need to clear my throat. But either way, I think we're going to see the Miscreant come down this turn, and those lackeys can open up a lot of options. Witchy lackey not so bad to get some work out of this. 0-3, but Surrender missed, and instead got damage and the Faceless, which, you know, I say Surrender missed. Is it really
not
a
that
miss?
bad. Yeah,
is it really a miss if you get a good card?
Pretty good. The real decision point from now is, can I afford to not Shadow Step this Life Drinker? Because his hand is starting to run dry, and stepping this Miscreant would be so fantastic to give him the extra juice he needs to get over the finish line. So he needs to make... what kind of a read can he make on Tyler's hand? Is it an all-out aggressive hand that has to go face, and therefore stepping the Life Drinker is more important? Or is it a value hand, in which case he needs to step the Miscreant in order to try and get more value to keep up? Or is it both?
I actually kind of like this turn. I'm not sure if this was the 100% intent, but by playing both and Shadow Stepping none, he kind of lets Tyler decide, right? Because Tyler probably doesn't clear this board.
I think that's
And
fair.
almost anything that Tyler doesn't clear, you'd say it's likely-ish that either the Miscreant or the Life Drinker lives. And depending on how Tyler plays this turn, Surrender can adapt with Shadow Step.
And I think the main thing as well is that Surrender, whether or not he actually knows that the Heist Baron Togwaggle is in hand, I think it's definitely something he's factoring in, which is saying my best counter to it is actually not keeping up on value. It's putting such an aggressive board in play that my opponent does not have time to play it.
Rogue
which I think
spending
is very
6
wise.
mana is insane.
Right,
to,
exactly.
To the Rogue.
Yes,
you
just
have to
for
be in a very
5/5.
good spot to spend 6 mana on a 5/5. But next turn, or maybe even the turn after, because Tyler can't Shadow Step the Lackey. I think Tyler probably has to go for turn 10. Togwaggle, if that's what he wants to do. And look at this.
I've got to be honest, I was kind of expecting Shark Life Drinker on this turn. It obviously doesn't clear off as much as of the board, but it sets up for Witchy Lackey into High Sparrow and Togwaggle to get a 6-drop and only 1 treasure, but that's not that bad, I don't think.
If Surrender just plays 3 Snip Snaps,
that's pretty nuts.
Is that just good? Like, especially separately, of course, as well. I would play them as 2 3s. Like, is that just insane?
Seems pretty good to me.
Super Vendor not really going to get much work done in this deck.
Yeah.
But still 1-4, not a bad shape.
It's alright. I think he wants something a little bit more front-loaded on the damage there to just keep it going. Like 2 2-drops being summoned and only 1 attack across both is pretty miserable. Because just imagine if this Spirit of the Dragonhawk had been attacking turn after turn.
Yeah,
like that's 6
10
extra damage.
or so,
right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
That could have been crazy.
Choose soon.
That's why I'm surprised he didn't just go snip, snip, snip.
Me too.
Because that's just 3
Even like
2-3s that death rattle into 6 1-1s. Like, you just kill Tyler. Like, what does Tyler even do at that point?
Yeah, I'm
just
a
too much
surprised
stuff.
as well.
Still though,
this is still good.
Yep, Surrender bringing Tyler down to 11. Tyler does have the waggle pick, but does he have the time? So now does he like? Wait, does he have to play Life Drink and Shark in a weird order here?
We could just go for the 50-50 of bouncing
Yeah,
back.
I guess so. Yeah,
Life Drinker, right? And even if he bounces back a 2-mana Shark, that's not that bad. Yeah. And the benefit is, there's not actually, and I'm putting a lot of emphasis on it here, that much damage on it. It's not dead on the spot if you don't clear it.
Also, we can't replay the Life Drink even if he bounces this turn.
Whoa.
17 saps. Ooh, a swing and a miss for Surrender.
Oh wait, he can step one of the Snip Snaps and gain 8 extra damage on this turn. How much damage does he have? He's got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's lethal.
9 plus 8 does add up to 17 as far as I'm concerned. Surrender, I think, is doing his counting movements.
He's doing the same thing.
Yeah, because he can hit with everything.
Yes.
Sorry, hit with everything but
Apart
one snip
from one
snap.
of the Snip Snaps.
Yeah, he sees
Hey!
it. Surrender is not one to be fooled and miss lethal that often, that I've seen at least.
Devastating
He has got
for
it.
Tyler.
Wow, what an end to the game. It seemed like there was still a lot to play for. Look at Surrender's health. He's only on 13.
Tyler was this close to getting the lethal there at that point.
Surrender, with this win, is going to take himself through to the semi-finals tomorrow, and that is going to be stacked.
That is exactly right. We have our top 4 now for the Asia Pacific semi-finals from our Group A. We have Staz and Alu team, our group leader, just managing to sneak in. And then from Group B, we have Shaxi sailing through very, very cleanly with his win against Surrender. And now, Surrender, the all-star Hearthstone player from Korea, cementing his place in the semi-finals with a very well-played game of Rogue.
Yeah, real shame to see Dawn and Tyler go on the first 2 days of this weekend. But, you know, someone has to. It's a shame to see all the other Grandmasters not be here as well, but that's just the way it happens. And then tomorrow, it's going to be even more brutal. Thunderdome style, 4 players will enter, 1 player leaves with a spot at Global Finals from Asia Pacific. So 4 fantastic Hearthstone players, and we're going to be crowning 1 tomorrow that's going to be effectively the Asia Pacific winner of Season 1. I don't know what it's called technically, I probably should have checked, but either way, they get a spot in the Global Finals, which means they're a winner in their book and a winner in our book as well.
Yeah, I think that the Season 1 champion of the Asia Pacific Grandmasters is a good
I like Season 1 winner of stuff. But,
that works too.
We could go for that. I do believe we are trying to get hold of Surrender for an interview. We're trying to set up as well, just on a few words. We didn't get to catch anyone a little bit. I didn't get to catch Surrender or Tyler, of course, so far today. So we're going to do our best. But what a crazy couple of days. And I feel like I thought submitting and playing against just 2 opponents every week over this many weeks was a brutal format in terms of just being a player in that format. This feels even more brutal.
This is so tense.
You rock up, you could just have 2 matches and boom, there's your season. Not season wasted, because like I said, there's prize money on the line for all the players' wins and everything, and the players are going to go through to season 2 anyway, but so much work, you got this far, and there's still time for many of these players to fall over at the last hurdle.
That's right, and you've got to remember, these players are not here to do reasonably well. These are competitors at their heart. They want to win. It's not about the money for these players, it's about being the best at something.
Yeah, and I believe we have one of the best ready now, so Surrender is here. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So first off, congratulations. I just want to ask just straight away, how are you feeling with today's matches? Because you played the most out of everyone today, and it felt like some of the matches were very, very tough for you.
I feel kind of bad for Tyler because he has always been my practice partner in group stage, and we made a promise, like let's not lose to Shaxi and let's advance. Yeah, let's advance to tougher. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of sorry to Tyler.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, but that's just what's going to happen, unfortunately. How are you feeling now that you know you're through to tomorrow? How are you feeling about the rest of the field and your chances at actually getting through tomorrow?
Good thing is I will be playing against Stats, right?
Yes,
and I think it's a really good matchup for me. Yeah, so I feel like I can make it tomorrow.
Nice. And I just want to ask as well, a lot earlier in the season, I interviewed you and you said you weren't feeling like you were putting a lot into Hearthstone at the time and you were going to work a lot harder. Do you feel a lot better now that your results went really well for the second half of the season and you got into this far into playoffs?
Yeah, I'm happy with my performance right now, and I think RNG is also helping me.
I mean, that's always pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, it appears that way with the rogue you've been playing. So I guess I want to give you the opportunity now to just talk about any plays that you thought were particularly difficult or interesting in your matches, because for us there were a lot of very, very difficult decisions, especially with how you sequence Spirit of the Shark and Miscreant and Edwin. Like, you had a couple of very difficult games.
Yeah, I think Rogue Mirror is one of the hardest matchup to practice, and I still don't know how to play it. It's so difficult.
Neither do we.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, if you don't know Surrender, we definitely don't know, so we just have to try and keep up the best we can. But we will let you go. Congratulations once again, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Cheers, mate. All right, well,
he's done it.
He's done it, yeah. And then I always, anyone who's been following Hearthstone and watched any cast I've ever done that's to do with Surrender,
You're a fan.
I'm a huge fan of Surrender.
Yeah.
I think he's an amazing Hearthstone player and has been for a long time, so I'm always happy to see him go through. But again, commiserations to Tyler. They tried to say, look, we'll both beat Shaxi, both go through. They were practice partners as well. But, sometimes, well, a lot of the time these things happen. But let's check out the bracket and see how everything has shaken out. So we did start off today with Surrender versus Tyler. And Surrender took the win over Tyler and then had to play Shaxi, who got the bye in that group by being the seed #1 in his division for the rest of Grandmasters. Shaxi kind of just moonwalked his way through the match, which is a little bit, I would say, it looked a lot easier than the average matchup of that one goes, Mage versus Rogue.
It did indeed. He got pretty fortunate there, being able to keep up on board early on and go for a Luna's Pocket Galaxy on a relatively empty board, which was a direct result of his play. Tempoing out the Khadgar on 2 is a
really
brave play, to say the least, but you can see his win was a direct result of his decision to go for that. It was nice to see such a clear cause and effect of his play.
Yep, and then because this is a double elimination bracket, effectively, then Surrender had to play Tyler again, which is what we just saw, and Surrender did take the win over Tyler in some very close Rogue Mirror matchups. But that is just 3 matches we have today. It's 3 matches every day this weekend for playoffs, so a little bit more bite-sized Hearthstone for you guys watching at home. But we can check out the schedule for our final day, which is going to be tomorrow. We do have, as the seedings kind of flip round again, so we have Surrender versus Staz, and then Alutimu versus Shaxi as the 2 semi-finals, and then we will, of course, have the final to decide the player who goes through. Derek, I'm going to ask you right now, Who are you feeling?
I think it's a tough one.
It's tough, right?
I think I would have to give the edge to Surrender at the moment because I feel like he's got himself a very strong matchup in Game 1 with the Rogue up against the Hunter from Staz. With, again, all the classes being Staz on the Hunter, Surrender on the Rogue, and the other two, Shaxi and Altem, on the Mages. Surrender's got a good matchup, number 1, and he's guaranteed a Mage if he wins, so I think he's in with a decent spot round 2. However, Staz on the other side, if he can overcome the Rogue, which he has been doing fairly consistently in Grandmasters so far with his Hunter, I think he is in a brilliant spot to be taking down those Mages. He's just been crushing them.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's going to sound so silly, but because it's stacked, most things I say are silly, so that's fine. I just keep it the same. But I will say Shaxi has just been playing very, very well.
Yeah.
And he plays a little bit strange to me as well, but it works. So I think no matter what, you can't count Shaxi out because he dominated Division B. He did well today, just breezed through the only match he needed to win. So I think it's just all up in the air. So I'm greatly looking forward to tomorrow, and you guys should too. We're going to be back same time, same place. And by the end of the day, we will find out who is booking their spot from Season 1 into the Global Finals later this year. But for now, from Derek and myself, have a good day, morning or night, depending on where you are. Catch up on some Europe and Americas that's going to follow us, and we'll see you tomorrow.